Good morning. Good to see everyone this morning. A little bit of a gray day, but very spring-like, I suppose. Cheryl, did you want to introduce anything? I know you don't have, that we don't need to talk about your budget item, but I mean for the department. But did you want to say anything about?
Well, I'm really excited to have our team presenting today. Today we'll have Kevin DeBose and his team with Housing and Neighborhood Development. We'll have the sustainability team who'll be showing up here soon. And then we'll have Knoxville, Knox County Planning presenting. So looking forward to hearing everybody. Of course, I've already heard their budget requests, but looking forward to having them present to you. And, we've got the flock of the rest of the team.
The rest of the team there. Good to see everybody.
At the back of the room. But, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm ready already?
Yeah, well, we're just, first of all, I mean, I'll just say, my master's degree is in policy and urban and regional planning. And so, I mean, this is my, housing, land use, planning is the kind of stuff that I knew about before I became mayor. Public safety, it was more of stuff that I learned as mayor. And so I really enjoy thinking through these topics and how we can do right by the people of our city, given the very dynamic situations we have. I mean, the housing crisis was an issue 5 years ago, and it's really, it hasn't dissipated, even though we've done more than ever before. It's getting a little better, but more work to do. So, but I'm really proud of our work. Every single council meeting, it seems, every single council meeting we have affordable housing things to vote on and approve that we're supporting in some way through land use changes and updates, through rezonings, through actual gap financing and other, blighted property remediation, the historic loan fund of dilapidated houses. And the Giffen School was a great one just, Tuesday. I mean, and it just goes to show you that property's been debated tossed around with different owners and different plans, and it just takes a lot of perseverance to make those things happen. So those and similar projects take a lot of work, take a lot of perseverance, and appreciate everything that policy and housing and neighborhood development do on those fronts. So with that, Kevin, I'd love for you to go ahead and get us started on your budget needs this year.
Thank you, Mayor, and it is a pleasure. Years ago, Dave and I and others dreamed about the day when an urban planner would run the city.
Well, just because you have a degree in it doesn't mean you get.
Well, you have the values,
right?
And that's the most important thing. But yeah, we're grateful for this season, and want to introduce our team, starting with Linda. I think Linda just came in. Linda is our. You guys can come up.
Yeah,
especially those who have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, come up if you.
We got chairs.
Want, yeah.
And there's one more over there.
Yeah.
Linda's our community development administrator. She has a very important role in compliance and making sure that all of our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, but also in leading, a pretty robust team within H&D. Hope Eagley, wave your hand, Hope. Hope is over our grants administration team, and they are working directly with sub-recipients and caring for those who are doing the work and building capacity. Beth oversees our major housing initiatives. I want to say that the Giffen School project, Beth has worked on that for 2 years and has stayed with it. Jillian handles programs that transform light, including homemakers, the residential historic preservation program, and our new middle housing redevelopment program, which I'll tell you about a little bit more in a bit.
Okay.
Hey, before you leave, Beth, I was in council and Vice Mayor Smith texted me and said, hey, remind me what her name is. And so I said, oh, it's, with H&D and that thing. He said, she's absolutely fabulous and made that project happen. So anyway, I wanted to pass that along, so.
Actually, it's just because I told him I went to get it.
Well, he remembered you. He remembered all you did for that project. Yeah, anyway.
Yes, Stephanie runs the DSO, the Disability Service Office, which is located in H&D. And Michael is working on policy and research and a lot of other issues. As I mentioned before, the Department of Housing and Neighborhood Development has 4 main goals. One is we want to keep people housed. We want to build more housing. We want to transform blighted property, preferably into housing. And then we want to promote housing equity. The bulk of our federal funds, which Linda and Hope Stewart very adeptly, goes to that first goal of keeping people housed. And that includes, improvements to facilities, support to organizations, repairs to owner-occupied housing, a lot of different activities. Our priority that will mainly impact general funds this year is to support what Erin's doing. And, what's going to come out of her strategic plan. And there's some big initiatives like launching a low barrier shelter and achieving functional zero in one of the categories, either veterans or youth, that we want to get behind and support our activities. In terms of building more housing, we're continuing to implement the Attainable Resilient Knoxville plan. I'm happy to report that we're on pace in every single category, and very pleased with the progress that is being made to build more housing and to answer the call created by the housing crisis.
And we're going to get a report on that.
And you're going to get a comprehensive report very shortly. So.
Great. Because it'll be easier to think about more funds when we know how much progress has been made.
There are a couple of items that were in the plan that are yet to be implemented, but we've applied with Knox Planning's help for a grant through it's called PRO, which is Pathways to Removing Obstacles grant. We're waiting to hear back from that.
This is what is it a grant for?
It's a grant that helps municipalities, remove obstacles to affordable housing. And some of the initiatives that we've yet to accomplish in our plan, we asked for funding in that.
And that is a HUD?
It's a HUD deal. I will say that we weren't on a priority list there, so it's kind of a long shot, for funding. But
how do you get to be on the priority list? I mean, I keep seeing these media reports that like Knoxville's one of the communities that's experienced the biggest increase in rents and housing costs in the country.
Yeah. Also, we're a lot more affluent than the other cities that are priorities. They have their poverty rates, their, overall.
It seems like the change,
I
mean, like we used to be affordable, low income and low cost. Now we're just low income.
I wish it was just based on the need for affordable housing, but it's not. It's taking a lot of other factors, and you probably could speak better to that. And then there's also a grant that Knox Planning has already received, working with CAT, that is going to identify priority areas for commercial transit-oriented development. which is also part of the plan's recommendation. In terms of transforming blighted property, we've updated a program that uses old empowerment zone funds that have been recycled many times over. And that program took condemned properties, other blighted properties, and transformed them into, productive use. What we've done is modify it to allow for the middle housing standards. And, we're trying to develop a program to produce what we want to see, which is, more development in the city. And so the old program was called BURP, the new one's called MERP. The Middle Housing Redevelopment Program will hopefully catalyze more units. We have a couple projects that are going to be coming forth to council that will be affordable housing, but also using middle housing standards, and we're excited about that. To go along with that, we've also updated our historic preservation program to be focused on residential. And you saw the item on last council where we provided a construction loan, and those will provide an incentive for developers, mainly owner occupants, to keep those single family. And so the two will kind of work hand in hand. And all of the commercial historic preservation and the institutional ones will be administered by urban design and development moving forward. So excited about those, the progress of those programs are on our website. And in terms of promoting housing equity, we were one of the first communities in the nation to do an equity plan, and we're very proud of that, and to try to protect our residents in our city from, the impacts of just the housing crisis, where, housing access may not be equal. And so there's several recommendations that have been made. We want to start to introduce programs in support of our partners to, address the findings of that report. And so legal aid's emerging as a potential partner with that. And so with that said, I'll go through the specific asks.
Okay.
Number one, again, goal to keep people housed is this low barrier shelter support. Not only do we want to have a low barrier shelter, but we also need to transform that safe space, and to usher in the next phase.
So this would be at the same location as the last one?
Yeah, ideally, it's the same location, and we would like to address both the safe space and the
Day space.
Day space at once under a single provider.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's
Yeah. And-
not awesome down there. I mean,
And Cheryl calls it phase one, possibly, that this would be a start.
Mm-hmm.
And, as we,
the community partner is
community partner
available, willing,
is
capable?
Yes, Aaron is working with the community partner. I do think that they're a new organization, and there's likely some capacity that needs to be built there. But, they're emerging as a
This is the one that was
potential
active in the warming center at that
Yes,
location?
yes.
Yeah. They're impressive in that capacity. I mean, that's much,
They're emerging as a solid option.
I mean, there's still a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
on this one, because, Ms. Ree is still wrapping up the planning effort she's on, the county's doing their budget work, but we want to make sure that there's an allocation within the budget to meet the need once all those puzzle pieces are put together, right?
So,
Is that-
as I recall, the last time we had a Loberry shelter, which was operated at that site by VMC, wasn't that paid for through ESG funds?
Yeah,
Or-
that,
And the- with, the- but that, but this is proposal for the general fund.
yes.
I think there's just a lot of different.
Lot of
needs
moving parts,
with this
yeah.
particular
Okay.
situation right now, so.
Yeah, okay.
Well said.
So this is an, you know, some, to try to have some money for when we have a clear solution and path forward.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be combined with some Fed funds. I know federal funds are, a lot of uncertainty there.
And I will say this, you know, using the federal funding does ramp up a lot of the
Regulation.
regulations and compliance. And, you know, capacity is important when you're dealing with federal funds. But hopefully we'll have a variety of sources and participation
Okay,
across the community, you know.
And I think the idea was maybe in the next 30 days, this can get refined in discussions with Ms. Holden, and with Aaron, but if not, let's at least have resources available. One of the reasons, I know when Councilman Roberto's here, one of the reasons we do budget amendments is we're always building a plane going down the runway, and so if the numbers come out a little different, then we'll look at adjusting it as we get into the budget later.
Well said.
okay.
The second one is the Tatum Resilient Knoxville. Again, specifically the two things that we need to continue to do is identify areas along commercial corridors that are developable and, you know, put some numbers with that. And again, we have those two grant sources that could potentially help with that, but, you know, funds are needed in that regard. And we also said we were going to do a deep dive on NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing, and identify those and evaluate those as well. And then the final piece is, you know, and I'm not certain the impact totally this would have on the budget, but we're working with KPD to provide some housing navigation for the police recruits as well. So those are some items that would fall under that umbrella. The next one, the Office of Housing Stability. This is just a small request, sort of a natural increase of cost there that for OHS as they build out their teams and administrators.
Yeah, I'm so glad you have a team now.
Me too.
Instead of, that makes it's a lot of work and thought needed, and so now you have 2 additional people beside from yourself to help, so that's good news.
The next request is a supplemental request for the warming centers, $30,000. We spent, as a city, was it $45,000 this year, and so this is an additional 30. We budgeted 15 last year, and Aaron can tell you all about the number of days and what was spent, but this will represent about half of the total, and then the other partners would cover the other half.
And just so we're clear, the concept is we have 2 good years of data. Now let's properly fund so this is a little more sustainable now that we understand the last 2 winters. Is that kind of where we're going, is create a more sustainable model that maybe is less intensive on you and your staff? Is that the idea?
It is the idea. I will say predicting the weather is
Of course, yeah.
impossible.
Of course, yeah.
What?
We have 2 winters though, we have 2 winters.
Yeah, one winter with 8 days of operation and one winter with 32 days of operation. I can tell you the budget's pretty different from one to the other, but essentially, yeah, we're trying to operationalize it more,
Okay.
plan for it better.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Residential Historic Preservation Program. Talked a little bit about that already, but this would add more resources to pump more capital into that program to the tune of $400,000 Moving on to the CAC case management. CAC provides supportive housing, administrative support to KCDC towers, and there's 4 towers, and traditionally there have been 4 persons, 1 assigned to each tower. Last year they had to roll that back, and so there's 3 persons. And so this
What are
is
the 4, look, I know Northgate and Love Towers, the Isabella,
Isabella.
what's the 4th one?
Did
Did you say love? Okay.
Kegel
Kegel.
Terrace, okay. I guess with the word terrace, it sounds like it's shorter, but it's, but that's the 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we, just, I'd have to look back, did we fund a position last year?
Yeah, that was kind of my understanding, but I don't think it happened. And so,
Like we didn't get the funding or they didn't hire the position?
the funding.
Okay, I guess
Yeah.
we'll look back on that.
And so it's a little different because this request will be in my budget, so
Okay.
we would, make sure that.
So a property like the Summit Towers is not KCDC, and they may or may not have any sort of case managers there, or we don't, it's just a private entity, so we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a private entity. I'm not sure what they do for supportive services standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know.
The next one is East Tennessee Community Design Center. The request here, and we've had a contract with them for many years, and it's historically been funded through our community development block grant. And that, under that contract, they work with nonprofits on their projects. And, this request moves it not only to general funds, but I'm going to be asking them to do something new, and it's to work with affordable housing developers, the sort of the smaller ones, the ones that don't have capacity, that are, one-offs, two-offs, that are working in low-income areas. And so from that standpoint, it's better to have a little bit more flexibility there. And so that's why that request is there. Moving on to HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. That contract has been sort of status quo for how many years? 15 years. And so this is the first increase, and it's just additional needs based on inflation. And
Do we use local, we usually use general fund dollars? for
yes,
that?
we do. We have for a long time. I think a lot of people don't realize how much the city puts into supporting
And does
homelessness.
Considering this is about homelessness, does the joint office and the county contribute to this contract?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Been around a long time, right?
Yeah. Okay, great.
But it's over $1 million, more like 1.4 million just out of general fund. Good, it goes to housing stability work.
City in
The
general.
city does, yeah. And on top of that,
Erin
Yeah.
presented about that in her,
Workshop.
slide specifically in the workshop that
Yeah.
that talked about.
Good.
I think I'm at the end of my list, so if there are any questions, I'll be happy to, with the team, try to address them.
Yeah, well, I think you explained things pretty well, and I peppered some questions in the middle, and yeah, we have a lot of work has been accomplished. I'm really proud of our progress, but we do have more work to do. I know from Aaron's data, and that our homeless, chronically homeless population has almost tripled in the last few years. So we're seeing the effects of that, the pressures of that, and some of these requests. These requests will help with all levels of our housing challenges. So appreciate that, and I'm glad to see a lot of new construction and renovations going on. That is ultimately, I keep seeing this, the bottleneck for people experiencing homelessness is it's all about economic, and it's about, you can have 50 caseworkers, but if there's no place for the caseworkers to send them, we need more housing not just more caseworkers. So anyhow, that's just a good reminder. It is ultimately, homelessness is a housing problem. And I do appreciate that our goal is functional zero, get homelessness to make sure it's rare, brief, non-recurring. And we got a little ways to go, but some of these proposals should help, and I know we got some details to work out. I'm really, really grateful for everyone's work on all these levels of affordable housing. It is great to see, I was up at Western Heights yesterday, that transformation is happening. It's transformations have growing pains, so talking to the residents there, moving's hard, and when a whole community's moving or being moved, there's some, it's just, I've never lived in a neighborhood where, everybody has to move all at once. I mean, it's a lot. So, but it is moving forward, and that's good to see. First Creek at Austin, I think phase 3 of that is happening. That's more housing, but there's little projects, development, infill. I see infill housing all over, in places that haven't had investment in a long time. Baxter Avenue, I was like, wow. Some other places on Central Street. And it seems like some of these infill housing are, I don't know if they're officially middle housing, but it seems like they're making good use of the available land. So glad to see that positive momentum. So thanks for the report. I don't have any more questions. Yeah, Councilman Roberto?
Thank you, Mayor. Kevin, Director DeVoe, sorry for the informal. Just wanted to thank you and your team for all that you all do. You're always so available for council to have conversations and get answers, so appreciate that. Really, what I heard a lot from your request was a lot of what I've been hearing from each of you in conversations about needs. I was particularly happy to see the low barrier shelter discussion. That $300,000, is that just the city's involvement? Are you also asking, maybe this is for Director Reed, is that also a request for $300,000 from the county, or is that just the city?
I'm still trying to work out the exact ask for the county. And that is connected also with whether we're going to be able to utilize the space in this way. And I don't know, I don't have an answer on that yet. So, but we are also asking for resources from the county. And that's kind of where it is right now.
Councilman, we every year, we will sit down and have a conversation. Chris Caldwell, the mayor's office, we do this throughout the year because oftentimes there are these joint requests. Good example is KEMA. KEMA has 3 submittals, and they happen to be city employees but jointly funded. So we will sit down, oftentimes it's voiced with Chris Caldwell, occasionally the mayor, with Mayor Jacobs, every once in a while I'll get in the middle of it. But we know that there's going to be need, and we know that we've got to equitably share that with the county, and we just don't have those numbers exactly lined up. But
I wasn't looking for exact numbers. I think my point was, I was always expecting that the cost for the low barrier shelter would be more than $300,000. So I figured there's got to be something else going on there. The identifying commercial corridors that are developable, I think that's, obviously council's been very vocal about how excited we are for those opportunities. And I think that inventory for naturally occurring affordable housing is a perfect thing for you all to be doing too. Obviously this is a critical area and the mayor kind of alluded to this at the beginning of our conversations, but given the change that we're seeing with federal funding, have you guys identified how much your department relies on federal funding?
A lot.
Yes. Our community development administrator, Linda, has been very active in communicating with Fiona and others, just that impact is. And so there's, we can tell you to the dollar what that is, what the number is.
Yesterday we learned that CATS was about a third of their budget. What do you think the percentage is for you?
Well, the beauty, when I worked for the city before in housing and neighborhood development, we received about $500,000 a year from the city general funds, and it was, 85% federal. The city supports us today to the tune of about $10 million. And, our federal funding between our CDBG, home, and ESG, be a little, our annual allocation would be closer to 4 million, would you say? 4 million?
A little less than 4 million.
A little less than 4 million.
Our numbers have been
So,
decreasing.
Over the years, the city has continually added more bandwidth to this department, our capabilities, and as a result of that, you'll see the more facilitation of affordable housing. But we are reliant on federal funds. It's very important. A lot of that money goes to providers, partners, and much of it is to keep people housed. It is that stability work. It's either through our owner-occupied housing and minor home repairs, which prevent homelessness, because sometimes housing for low-income persons can get so bad that they, lose their homes that way. And then the other ways is through agencies out here doing the work. So we support them with those funds. And so it is very important, although the city's contribution sort of, is almost, more than double our federal funding right now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I would just add, I've asked all my department heads to stay in close contact with my office and with Fiona on all matters related to federal funding when they encounter challenges or obstacles, or like we've submitted an invoice for reimbursement for a grant that we've already been appropriated and we're getting no reimbursement or a delayed reimbursement. We need to know those things, and so we need to track them carefully and then get on them when and if we encounter them. It's, most of our everyday essential services with the city are locally funded, but housing is one that's more reliant on federal funding. CAT, as we heard yesterday, is more reliant on federal funding. And then, of course, if there are significant cuts to education and Medicare, Medicaid, those aren't things that directly affect city services, but it affects the people who live here who, if your healthcare expenses go up, then maybe you can't afford the rent. I mean, could have some cascading effects, but we're trying to be as proactive as possible. We're in close communication with our federal delegation and, just trying to navigate it and react and proactively prepare for things as much as we can, but there is some uncertainty for sure. But I think I think there's also, I don't want to be too gloom and doom. Like there was an issue with a USDA grant that was going to a recipient of a federal grant, and we found out about it, and then we talked to folks in DC, and were able to release those funds and get it going. So. Well, it was sort of a wait and see a little bit attitude about things, but it is something on our minds for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, keep up the good work, and I am proud of our local contributions and hope that our federal contributions don't go any lower. It is true. I mean, the housing crisis is not, in theory, should be nonpartisan. People, there are plenty of people who affected by the housing crisis across the political spectrum who just want a place to live that's affordable. I met with, again, I just came from a walk around in Western Heights yesterday, and you meet all kinds of people living in affordable housing, and they would be sad if their housing cost became less affordable. So anyhow, thank you all very much, and we'll see which of these things, how many of these things we can fund at what level. It depends on the revenues and federal funds situation and everything else. So appreciate it though. We're making a lot of progress. I'm really pleased with the joint offices work, which is new, that's new response to new level of crisis, so. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you.
All right.
Steady.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for being here, and I'm sure everybody here knows you already because you're helping them get their budget requests together,
Okay,
so.
listen, Sandy's already like taking care of like 7 crises, so she's.
Oh, all right. Well, I love, the partnership between finance and all the departments is so key, and we have some new members of the finance department. We're glad. No vacancies at finance right now? Or almost? No?
We still have a few vacancies, those two, like,
Oh.
when the new FY comes about, that we're gonna try to do.
Okay. But
But,
compared to a couple years ago,
no, we're much better.
yeah. Okay, well, good to see our mighty sustainability department here. Appreciate, you guys have been through a lot of changes in the last, I don't know, a little bit. And I appreciate Grace and Don Michelle. You guys have, just kept things going during some changes, and I really appreciate that. And Patience, we're so glad to have you on board. You've been with us 2-3 weeks now?
Third week.
Third week,
Yep.
okay. So you've mastered everything, and
Yeah,
I'm
It's all buttoned down.
well, I'm sure, Grace and Don Michelle and our Sandy and others, and Cheryl, Kara, thank you for stepping in and helping during these interim periods. But I don't know who prepared the budget request, but I'm looking forward to hearing. I guess it was a team effort. So let me hear what you guys are needing these days.
Sure. So, yes, just to introduce the team, Patience Melnick, Director of Sustainability. Dawn Michelle Foster is Deputy Director. Grace Levine is Sustainability Coordinator. And as you mentioned, Kara has been a huge help over the last several months, transitioning in between the directors. So we have 2 small asks. But they are really important for the success of our office. The first is for transportation, specifically airline transportation for conferences. And then the second is for registration fees for those conferences. They're both for $2,000 each, with the same goal of really increasing our attendance at those conferences. Conferences, especially in sustainability, are really important for our team. It's a very quickly developing field with new technologies, new solutions to this imminent problem, and new strategies for communication with the public. So attending these conferences really helps our team kind of stay abreast of the latest best practices and bring those best practices back to Knoxville. I would say another big benefit of those conferences is our networks. We really rely upon our peer networks, especially the Urban Sustainability Directors Network and the Southeast Sustainability Directors Network. I would say, call upon them for information almost on a weekly basis and meet with them, virtually once a month. So these in-person conferences really give us the chance to strengthen those bonds and meet new people, again, learn best practices and learn about other cities' programs and the successes they've had. Those are key for us. Another key part of those conferences is just staying connected to TDEC. In particular, there's a Southeastern, I think it's called Show of the South. The name has changed in recent years, but that was their conference, and they have a very heavy presence at it. I don't think they run it anymore, but they're a good source of funding for our office and of information. So it's really important for us to stay connected to them. In the past, we had enough money to send one staff person to one big conference a year, which really was just not enough. Maybe a few regional meetings and smaller things that we could drive to. With this funding, each of us would be able to go to at least one bigger conference and then, attend as needed these kind of more local conferences. which we think is really important for us just to continue to, again, practice those best practices and stay connected to the community.
Right, yeah. I'm a big supporter of networking and also continuing to learn best practices. And I'm pleased to hear you mention TDEC, because sometimes we think about, just the national level stuff, but, TDEC is right here in Tennessee, and they do have some, we've benefited from some of their funds and grants in the past, and finding that alignment with our state will be good for the city. And so, but there's also some national conferences that are really helpful. I really always appreciate the climate mayors gatherings are really helpful. And I think at this moment, people are going to be looking for local leaders and local governments plans of action, because, more than in the past. So yeah, let's take advantage of the networks we can, and those sustainability groups. I hear great things about them from your predecessors, and that sounds like that's been a good break. I really appreciated the recent convening that we hosted of CLCA. What did it stand for?
CLCA.
Something like catalyzing local climate action.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like sustainability has a lot of acronyms. So anyhow,
Patients can tell you all about those acronyms.
Right. But anyhow, thank you for hosting. We hosted that, but that means you all did all the work along with the partners, and our connection to those partners has been helpful. And I thought that was a good use of our time and energy, and I certainly gained something from it. I think even more importantly, all the other attendees, I heard good things about it. So we host, sometimes we're the host, and sometimes we need to attend. So I appreciate this request, and hopefully we will have the funds to make it happen.
I just wanted to tag on that, the TDEC relationship is at all of these conferences, and that relationship, as you mentioned, is particularly important as we have had, leadership changes. It's really important that we stay top of mind with them, because sometimes I think we felt like we were, not because of not making efforts. The efforts have been there. The efforts have definitely been there, but wanting to make sure that we're keeping that relationship really good.
Good. Well, and I feel like sustainability, both internally in the city, needs to be really aware and connected to back and forth with our public safety departments, our engineering departments, our planning department. It's just plans, reviews, and inspections operate. There's just, but then externally, TDEC, TWRA, obviously EPA, other things like FT, the U.S. Department of Transportation, all the CAT stuff, which I know you guys were big leaders on, even Vision Zero. If people don't feel safe walking around their city, then they're not. If they can't, they'll choose not to. But anyhow, that is to say, sustainability sort of touches on every dimension of our lives, and so learning these best practices and staying connected is super important. So. Good request, and we'll hopefully. It's a pretty small amount, so hopefully we can swing this. Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to mention something. Thank you, Mayor. So, Director Melnick, I think highlighting the stuff that has already been accomplished is so important, especially with the Office of Sustainability. But I know, we had the 50% reduction of emissions, greenhouse emissions, as a goal by 2050, but I think we're getting close to achieving that by 2030, or we may have already slipped over that. I was just wondering if you could give us an update on where we are.
Good question. I can't give you solid, numbers, but that goal is actually for 2030. The 50% is 2030 for city operations.
That's right.
The 2050 is 80% for the whole community. So we are, I think, quite close, and we're
still on schedule
we're
to do it early.
I believe so, yes.
that's great.
We're still kind of crunching the number. We're still working on last year's numbers, so we'll have more information.
Well, and that
soon.
reminds me, yesterday we heard from Fleet, and one of their requests is to increase the number of AVLs, and, you know, like, for our internal goals, you know, probably besides, you know, well, buildings, waste, and transportation, it's the same internally and externally, but our green fleet policy has really helped a lot moving forward, and Isaac yesterday said we're about to finish the procurement and process of 4 new electric buses, I think, so there's, you know, positive stuff happening there.
Very
And-
positive.
This is not about the budget request, but is, you know, at some point, when you have an update on CPRG, climate pollution reduction grant, see?
Yep.
That's about air pollution, yeah, well, I had all my coffee. Because I know that's something that we've been working on, and it's regional, obviously, so, you know, the air and the water, everything, you know, the temperature, the weather, doesn't follow city or state or even national boundaries, so, you know, I know we've made some progress on that, so, I mean, this is not the right venue to give an update. If you have any update, let me, you know, a broad one that you could share in 30
Yeah.
seconds, let me know, but otherwise, would love to know what's going on with that.
Just one very positive thing is that we did draw down last week on those funds.
So
and
our
they were-
federal
And they were
grant?
paid.
Yeah. Okay.
They were paid, and
So-
those are EPA funds, so.
Okay,
that
that's
was
really
great
good, so, I
news.
mean, I think that's important, like, you know, if you read, you know, certain headlines, you think, you know, that all those grants were completely stopped, and they're not. So
Right.
just last
Correct.
week, we got paid from an EPA grant.
Yes,
Okay.
we did. So those meetings have resumed, and we're moving
Good.
forward with it, so.
That's encouraging. Well, keep us posted, obviously Fiona,
Yeah.
my office, if you encounter challenges, but that's kind of news we like to hear, so. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Looks-
Maybe disregard my text, I didn't see you sitting back there.
Where are you?
I did not see you.
That's okay, thank you.
She's been there for,
I know,
30
you can
minutes.
see her, but I'm like Lauren Ryder, council, I couldn't see you.
Yeah, that big column is, you know, there's some
She was hiding, boys.
obstructed
She was
views.
just trying to.
We couldn't move that column when we did this room, by the way, so it's always been there. It's funny.
Amy, it was nice to see you in Nashville with the Leadership Knoxville class. It's a great class. I feel like I knew most of the people from one walk of life or another, and just good to see everybody there. It was a good meeting or encounter, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're no stranger to Nashville, I guess, but some people might not be as familiar.
Yeah, I think it was really nice for them to see you and Fiona there, and especially the context of the discussion.
Yeah, we need to spend some time in Nashville. So anyhow, I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we have staff of 33, but I brought our core leadership team members today, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Gilhula, Information Services Manager for Planning. I oversee the group of researchers. We have a couple of researchers on staff, and we also have a team of GIS, Geographic Information Services folks. And I think, speaking on their behalf, I think we have a top-notch group of information folks here.
Absolutely. Terry, how long have you been with planning?
36 years, man.
Wow.
Yep.
So did you launch the GIS, I mean, you created it?
Actually, when I got there,
Onion paper.
Abacus too. Our GIS function was 2 folks, and we were one of the very first GIS departments in the country.
Wow.
Local government. So I didn't start it, but I was there in the early
You're
days.
early pioneer.
I guess.
Well, I agree with your assessment. It's a great function. A leader back 36 years ago, but continues to be really, really strong and effective. And you're quietly excellent. So it's really good. Yeah, we appreciate
Our
it.
group really enjoys helping out with our city partners. We do a lot of work with a lot of other departments, and it's a good, rewarding relationship.
Are we your favorite? I think that in this context, like today, you have to say yes, right? Anyhow.
36 years, man.
All right, I will move on to our next.
Yeah, I'm Allie Kitron. I am our strategic planning and communications manager. I have not been there 36 years. I've been with the agency for close to 9, though, and have worked in our communications group that entire time, and then working on some big projects more strategically with our partners. So.
Mayor, I do want to note you have the island triangle right here. So well represented. So.
Terry, where do you live?
Not quite as hip and cool as Island Home. I live on the west side. I live
Yeah.
just off Gallagher View
West
Road.
Knoxville, yeah. Well, Island Home has a lot of great people, and 3 of them are in the room today. Anyone else? Yeah.
Boys?
Yeah. Boyce is-
Sure.
he's the- All right, well.
All right, we'll dive in here. So we have 3 primary requests. The first one is our annual appropriation, so we're asking for an additional modest increase over our allocation from last year. And this request really is intended to help us continue fulfilling our monthly obligations to the city and fulfill our current and proposed work program request. As you all know, the cost of doing business has increased from legal expenses that we have to ensuring that our staff salaries stay competitive.
Amy, the city has that 2.5. Do you try to follow, I know you've got both city and county funding, but do you try to keep a cost of living, salary increase for your staff?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. Yes.
Do you follow about that 2 to 3?
About 2.5 to 3.
Just wondering. And that's included in here as well?
That is, yes. And that is probably the bulk of
The
this
bulk of it.
particular request.
How is
Yes.
staffing going? Do you have a lot of vacancies,
No,
or?
we don't have, well, we have 1 vacancy right now in our addressing group, but other than that, we're fully staffed, thanks to you all and the allocation you gave us last year. We were able to hire a couple new positions, and I think we have an excellent staff. Young,
How many
but
total
they're
staff do you have?
great. 33 positions.
33.
Because you dovetailed a little bit, we did our big comprehensive analysis of wages and salary and benefits. You then did your own, or we helped a little bit with that, and then you were able to implement the
Correct.
last year or so.
Yes.
And that's been a big
Super
game changer.
helpful. Yeah, it's very helpful for retention.
Okay, good. Okay, so,
So that is the primary one. If you want me to, I can run into some additional details about our work if you'd like, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I will say that our local appropriations, that's from the city and the county, only make up 31% of our budget. So we do try to be very fiscally responsible and keep those requests as modest as we can.
And I guess the rest of that, a big chunk of that is fees from users. What percentage is that?
So our fees,
you said the local city county contributions are 31%?
31%, yeah. So our fees make up approximately 8 to 9% of our total budget. It's about 50, it's going to go up to about 54% of our budget is made up of grant reimbursements.
Okay, wow.
So we also serve as a pass-through for other local governments, both the city and the county, through the Transportation Planning Organization function.
Okay.
And we have some administrative funds that we're able to use from those allocations.
So the 33 FTEs includes TPO?
Correct.
Okay. And most of those grants are, they're state and federal.
Correct. Transportation funds.
And you're monitoring, just like all other folks are right now, about any changes to that, or concerns, and you'll let us know.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. We don't have any significant concerns right now.
Good.
So I'll start off with, we have 2 one-time requests. One is to update what's called a historic context statement. This is for the Magnolia Avenue redevelopment area. It's new terminology, so I'll talk a little bit about what that is. So historic context statements are now considered what's best practice in historic preservation. So instead of doing windshield surveys, which we've done historically.
What surveys?
Windshield surveys, where you just drive down the
Windshield,
corridor
okay.
and you note particular buildings that might have historical significance. And that's primarily what you will see in the 2009 Magnolia Corridor study. So this is, this particular project will designate properties that are contributing or non-contributing based on the appearance, but also just local historic context as well. So it dives a little bit deeper. So the study, like I said, would focus on the area of the newly created Magnolia Avenue redevelopment area. So as we think about development that occurs alongside the new stadium, funding and tax incentives that might be offered through that new redevelopment area, I think we all recognize it, and there'll be increased development pressure along this corridor. So this would be what we think an important step is to identify and document buildings along this corridor and sites that are historically significant, so we can kind of get ahead of that as this area potentially experiences some rapid change over the next 10, 15 years. And so I think some of the benefits of this are, it does provide a written report, it'll have an inventory of historic properties, but it also can be used to inform development, redevelopment opportunities. It can be a resource that's used by historic preservationists, planners, city officials, again, developers, the community at large, and it can be more dynamic than a plan that sits on a shelf. It could be something that we have a map, interactive map, something that we can keep track of over time. And potentially this type of work could be expanded to other corridors if the city desired.
Does it present, additional barriers to redevelopment? Possibly. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds good, but I'm all for historic preservation. But like, historic overlays sometimes are mixed bags, and would this present any new regulatory?
Not necessarily, unless that's something that the city wanted to pursue.
But it could be just like knowledge where someone is seeking a partnership with the city, and be like, oh yeah, this property has historic value. We know because of the survey, or whatever you call it, historic context statement or research.
Is this required, by the way, is this required as part of what Casey's doing for the redevelopment area? Is this in coordination with KCDC, or is this just something that has a different genesis?
It's not required to establish a redevelopment area for the criteria, but it would just be another layer of helpful guidance and information for the corridor.
Yeah. And in terms of thinking about the positive impacts of this, it could be helpful for a developer or a community member who want to redevelop their property, because they might be able to get historic tax credits or other types of incentives to be able to make that project happen.
Okay. But it has nothing to do with like historic landmark status or that sort of thing.
It doesn't necessarily directly feed into that type of designation. It could, but doesn't have to. Just more for information purposes. So this next one, you all have heard us talk about the comprehensive plan for a number of years now. So this estimate that we have was derived from conversations that we had with the city of Chattanooga that's undergoing a new long-range plan, as well as conversations, of course, with Knox County, who just updated their comprehensive land use and transportation plan, or created a new one, I should say. The plan that we have now it's over 20 years old. It's 22 years old. The component parts of it, so the sector plans and a lot of the corridor plans, are also fairly dated, at least 10 years or older. We've experienced, as you all know, and we were just talking about when Mr. DeBose was here. So we've experienced population growth over the last 10 years in the city, about 16,000 new people. So that brings the city to a historic high of almost 200,000. So this growth is significant, especially when we've seen in recent years where the city hasn't experienced that type of growth, where there's actually been a decline. So I think it's time to modernize our plans, update them, and it really will help us align plans and codes, and we've been doing a lot of work on ordinances. You all have been doing a lot of great work around new policies, specifically related to housing, so it's an opportunity to help align that and really set the direction for the city over the next 10, 15 years.
And so if, I really want to do this. It's overdue, but I want to, just, ask you first, it goes over 2 fiscal years, so the funding could also stretch out over 2 fiscal years.
And we'd like to be able to do that if we could. Just break it into 2. Is this about an 18-month to 24?
We would hope it'd be about 18 to 24 months.
Perfect. Yeah. It's in the record now.
But with the new comprehensive plan, you know, I just want to do what we can to make sure it aligns with our priorities on, you know, equity, sustainability, safety, walkability, smart growth, infill, you know. So how do we, you know, I guess, how would that unfold? I wasn't paying attention 20 years ago when this was last done. You were here, Terry. Amy, were you?
I wasn't here, no.
You were not at planning then? No,
No, I
okay.
wasn't. I think one of the first steps when you're undertaking a comprehensive plan is, one, I think we'll need to have a core team of planning staff and city staff.
Mhm.
We'll want to work with you, Mayor, and your administration to define what your priorities are.
Mhm.
And that will help define the scope of the project.
Okay.
Also, we'll need to do some community outreach.
Of course,
and input
yeah.
and gather input. And so that really will set the direction. Like, what are the goals and priorities for this plan?
And the legislative body, obviously, setting those early, mayor's office and
Uh-huh.
legislative body would be really important.
Well, because, I mean,
Vote on it.
the trick will be how to balance competing priorities.
Yes.
Not, I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's, you know, every person has their own set of individual priorities, and it might vary for where they live versus where they go to do other, you know, shop or work or whatever. So, I mean, that's the big trick. So Chattanooga's going through this right now?
They are.
Uh-huh. How's it going?
I think it's going fairly well.
Mhm.
From what I can tell, what they've shared with me. And Memphis is beginning to undertake an update of theirs. So actually, you know, it's nice that we have our other big cities that are
Mhm.
undertaking this.
Well,
Any
Memphis is, you know, pretty, I mean, I don't think they're a growing population. I think they
No.
might be shrinking.
It's a little
and
different
They have
focus.
Chattanooga, I think, is growing,
little
you know. Okay.
Any lessons learned? I mean, obviously, the county just went through a very similar, like, we've got the advantage of going through that process. Any lessons learned that we can bring to the table when we do it?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I would say, since the county just recently went through this, there's a lot of data that I think
Okay.
is still relevant.
We can use some
So
of
that'll
that.
be really beneficial for this process.
Okay, good.
Great.
And,
Maybe
our-
make it could be closer to 18 months
Yes.
than
And-
24.
And our team, under Terry and Ally's leadership, really led that part of the
Okay.
effort.
Awesome.
So I feel like we have good capacity there. I think what you touched on with the competing priorities and recognizing that going in, that there's going to be trade-offs. I think
Early.
that we just
Early.
need to keep that front and center.
And the one, you know, the amount requested, 1.5 million, is that towards hiring an outside consultant? Who did the county use? I can't.
Kimley Horn was the primary.
Uh-huh.
on
But
it.
we do an RFP and
Yes.
all that,
Yes.
yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. All right, well,
Is there any opportunity to bring TPO federal funding to reduce the city obligation? Is there an opportunity? You mentioned that. I know
Oh.
that's still in the mix, but.
Yes, I would recommend that we explore that option. The county did when they updated their
and
plans.
they got some money?
They did, yes. There's planning dollars that are available each year through the TPO.
Okay.
So,
And
Oh,
if-
let's
if you could-
definitely do
If you
that.
could let us know, I mean, I think we're going to fund it, obviously, pending approval of the legislative body, but if you know what you think that might be, make sure finance knows.
And we
As
can-
we crunch numbers, it'd be nice to know, is it
We can get
100,000
it
or
on
200?
the agenda for TPO to approve, I guess.
yes. Yes, and we can help frame that out, and it would be something that the city would request through the TPO, but we can help facilitate that.
Awesome.
All right, any other questions for
Excited.
planning? All right, anything else? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we got a lot of work on the horizon, but it's really been 20 years since we'd updated the comprehensive plan. 22. Okay, it's time.
Yep.
All right,
All right, thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
If you're all, it seems like your team's all here, all super early, which is great. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, and if you could start by introducing everybody. Yeah, or come to the table for
Bring
the,
a chair.
yeah, just,
Now we're gonna make it weird.
come.
Boys can't see people with the collar, you gotta come forward.
If you don't have a seat at the table, you might be on the menu.
Well, they're not even talking.
Groom, sorry, copied you on an email, thank you. Yep.
All right. Good to see everybody. Appreciate, looking forward to your presentation of your budget request.
Yes, ma'am.
Really, I know it sounds strange, but I did enjoy the canvas that we did last night in Western Heights. I think the canvases for Project TLC are something that I'm really proud of. It's super effective. I don't see Star here.
She actually had another meeting already scheduled that was already on the calendar.
Well,
so.
that's fine. I'm just wanted to express my gratitude to her efforts on our group violence intervention strategies have been making really big progress. You were sharing with me yesterday.
Yes.
The canvases, the call-ins, the customs, the people taking advantage of the network of supporters that we've put together, and crime is down.
Yes.
And violent crime is down, homicides are down, and I know that's one part of the work that you do, and I'm also just really pleased to, I know, I think Park is really getting out in the community in ways that were new and innovative and reaching people in new ways, and that's really, all that, to me, the trust that the people have in the city, in the police, in Park, in the Office of Community, the Office of Community Safety Empowerment is integral to people's trust of the city as an institution.
Yes, ma'am.
And in this day and age, protecting and promoting that trust and earning it, we should never take it for granted, because there's a climate of divisiveness and instead of trust but verify, it's like don't trust and then run away. Mm-hmm. And so the work that you're doing, I think, is really important to instilling that sense of mutual trust between the city and the people we're serving. So
Yes, ma'am.
good stuff.
Well, thank you for that. And it, kind of links heavily into kind of our focus and approach to doing this work. We really have a priority and a really heavy focus on that direct engagement with community to both build trust, but also to serve as that liaison, to hear what community concerns are, community needs, community perceptions, and hopefully not only use that to fuel how we do our services and our work in OCSC, but also to support the work of other departments in meeting the needs of our residents. And so we really focus on that direct engagement, on capacity building. We have a little saying in our team that it's empower, not enable.
Yeah, that's really good.
So we really try to heavily focus on capacity building, and providing those supports for our residents, for neighborhood organizations, and the community-based organizations that are providing those invaluable services in our community. So while we know that we don't do an extensive amount of direct services, we feel like we have a role to play in supporting the neighbors, the residents, the organizations that are doing that work, and that's really the role that we occupy and where we see our lane as being. And we have the pleasure of doing that with a really awesome team that you have already commended on some of their great work, and I think the team approach that we take is evident by the fact that almost all of us are here. We had one person, like I said, who had a meeting already scheduled, and I made sure that they understood that they needed to keep that meeting. Yeah. And so, but we have Ms. Tiffany Davidson, who serves as our Deputy Director of the Office of Community Safety and Empowerment, Debbie Sharp, who's our Neighborhoods Coordinator, and Haley Howard, who is our Assistant Neighborhoods Coordinator, and Shanette Riley, who's our Event Planner and Admin Support for the Office of Neighborhoods. Emily's over there is our Youth Engagement manager leading the Empower Knox initiative. Dee Dee Chisholm, who's the newest member of our team, is our grant specialist for the African American Equity Restoration Task Force, which from here on out I will call the ART, because I will not say all those words. And then of course we have Jared Kroom, our executive director of the Police Advisory Review Committee, and Josie Russell, our community manager for Park. And missing today is Star Starks, who's our program support partnerships coordinator for the Office of Community Safety, and Sam's all the way back there. Sam keeps us all in line and aligned, serving as our administrative manager and executive assistant for Tiffany and I. So I thought I would start today just kind of by framing a little bit of where we have come over the last couple of years as we kind of shape why we are making the requests that we're making. So as you mentioned, OCSC is really focused on those engagement pieces, those relational pieces. And last year, members of our staff participated in well over 450 public or community meetings. Several of those we hosted, but many of them were us showing up to hear concerns and needs and support partners in the work that they were doing. And so we are a fairly small team, but we make it a point to be present, to be available, and to show up for our community wherever we can. We also awarded approximately $490,000 in grants to our community across our organization, and those were to community-based organizations and neighborhood organizations through our neighborhood small grants, the grants that the task force piloted last year, our empowerment grants, and of course our community safety grants. And I am really grateful to this administration for that investment. And when we think about where we were just several years ago, in the very meaningful investments that were being made in our community, but to see how we have expanded that and grown that and brought additional focus to that, I think has been really important for our community. I'll talk just briefly a little bit, as best I can, about each of the initiatives individually. So the Office of Neighborhood Empowerment, as you can see, they are a team of 3, 2 full-time and 1 part-time staff person, but they serve, over the course of the last couple of years, they have served approximately 90 neighborhood organizations, with several of those being new organizations that they help to support in organizing and forming. And that involves working with those neighborhood residents to build capacity, to hold meetings, to connect with other residents and neighbors, to develop an organizational structure. And so they help do a lot of that legwork with those neighborhoods and building that out. They have worked extensively with engineering and public service and our public safety departments on our neighborhood traffic safety program, which I will not talk too much about in fear that all of our heads will explode.
But we're in the process of
we are in the process of revamping that. And I want to publicly thank Haley for all of the really hard work that she's done since her time at the city, both to help manage that program in its previous iteration and working with other departments and our consultants as we look to revamp that program. But, you know, really playing a critical role in communicating with members of our community about that program, managing it day to day, coordinating those neighborhood meetings that are really critical. And it's one of those things that it's a really popular program, and I always say everybody wants traffic calming until traffic calming comes, and then nobody knows who wanted traffic calming. But she helps to navigate that. And then, of course, we have our 2 signature events. For those of us who have been around the city for a little while will remember that we used to do the large neighborhood event down at the convention center, and a couple of years ago we split that out to have the neighborhood resource fair and the neighborhood awards dinner, and Shanette does such a great job coordinating those events. And the neighborhood awards dinner is tonight, so we're looking very forward to that, and just as a testament to the way in which those events have grown and the work that this department has done to really promote this opportunity. This year we had 11 nominees for the Neighbor of the Year award, which is more than we have ever had, we believe. That's great. And so it's fantastic that folks are recognizing this is an opportunity.
While you're still in Office of Neighborhood Empowerment, I wanted to say I ran into someone yesterday who was grateful for your efforts. He is a part of a group in the Bell Morris community that's starting a new Jack Cooker. And he was, they're a brand new organization, and you've been helping them sort of start a new organization. And so he's excited about that and wanted to say that people, I mean, that's the thing, I get feedback from community members a lot of times, and they've interacted with some member of OCSE in a way that that is just a little different and unique from other departments, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks recognize the Office of Neighborhoods for the work they do with neighborhood organizations and folks looking to organize in their communities, but they also play a pivotal role in coordinating like our Healthy Knoxville initiatives, helping to coordinate National Night Out, our City Nature Challenge, the kickball tournaments, and is it
Emergency preparedness.
wiffle ball? I was about to say pickleball because everybody plays pickleball, but it's wiffle ball. Emergency preparedness, and so there are a lot of functions and roles that they play in our community. And this year, in this current budget year, they've taken that even an additional step forward and reinitiated the Building Strong Neighborhood Organizations leadership program. So, in addition to the Neighborhood Advisory Council, they also lead a cohort. They've already graduated a cohort of residents who are interested in developing neighborhood organizations in their community and looking at how they can continue to build and grow. And this year, again, we had a lot of nominees for the Neighborhood Association, the Neighborhood Awards, but this year, for the first time, maybe ever, but definitely in a long time, our applications for the neighborhood grants exceeded the amount available to awarding those grants. So people are learning what we're doing and looking for opportunities to take advantage of that, and I'm just really proud and thankful for the work that they do. The Police Advisory and Review Committee has, as you mentioned, has continued to build great partnerships and doing things like expanding the community office hours and partnering with organizations like KCDC, Centro Hispano, some of our schools, YWCA, and other community-based organizations to go out into those communities and just be available. If folks want to file or need to file a complaint, they can, but they can also just ask questions about public safety, about policing and other issues. And Josie and Jared are out there on a regular basis engaging with folks. And I think that we have seen the fruits of that by having more direct contacts with folks, more questions being raised, and more folks contacting the office to raise concerns or even to give accolades and accommodation to officers that they feel like have gone above and beyond. And so having those points of engagement have been really, really critical. They've worked really hard to update our documents and make them more accessible to many of the folks in our community, to make the complaint process more accessible, and to make sure that they are staying on top of trainings, networking opportunities, to ensure that they are implementing best practices and civilian oversight and really establishing themselves as leaders in that community.
I also just want to say I appreciate you are able to, when you have time, attend KPD events too, because I mean it's good we have a lot of new officers, and and I know you're part of, you sometimes go out to the academy to let them know what park is and how it interfaces with the police and and your way out in the community. I mean that's exactly what we need you to be doing. So, but I appreciate that you attend those events that are happier occasions too, when you have time. And just also want to give a note of gratitude to Josie for being one to step up in the role as Chip has taken on some new responsibilities related to parking. You agreed to be our LGBTQA liaison, and that's important too. And I know there's a lot of people with questions and concerns, maybe more than ever. So I appreciate you taking on that role on top of everything else. And you're probably glad not to do parking,
Chip drew the short straw.
Yeah. Fortunately. But in addition to the community office hours and other points of engagement, this year Park is also implementing listening sessions, which will start this month,
20th.
The 20th? Yep. will be the first listening session, just to create another opportunity for folks from the community to engage and share their
I think that's
concerns, their
super important.
needs.
I mean, in my interactions with constituents, sometimes, just feeling heard is what they really want and
Right.
need. And there might have been no laws broken or even close to being broken, but they still are, frustrated or upset. And it might be about things that are only tangentially related to law enforcement type stuff. But and you never know what you'll learn in a listening session. That's why we listen. So that's a great new engagement opportunity. So thank you.
On the Empower Knox side of the shop, Emily is always busy, whether it is managing the youth council, who just had their third youth summit a few weeks ago, and this time it was focused on housing and had really great engagement. We're able to develop some new partnerships and get support from the University of Tennessee to help host that. But that, if you've never had an opportunity to go to that event, it is designed, organized, and led by the members of our youth council, who are 15 high school students that meet regularly to share their insight on issues that are important for them and to infuse youth voice in our community. And they always love the opportunity to meet with you, Mayor, and have those conversations. And so thank you for continuing to support that effort. And she's also gearing up for Summer in the City, which for the past couple of years we've hosted 20 to 21 interns. Thank you for those of you all who have hosted Summer in the City interns, and for those of you all who have decided to do it again, we really appreciate you. And so working with city departments to coordinate that, as well as receiving applications and going through those, and then coordinating activities for those young people to have a meaningful experience. They provide so much support to us as the city, but it's also a great opportunity for them to build relationships, build connections, develop their networks, develop their skills, and some of them have even gone on to be employed by the city, which is always a positive thing if we can find ways to retain young people in our community. So those applications are currently open for anybody watching. We also worked extensively last year to revise our grant making process to make it more accessible to more organizations, provide a little more guidance in terms of what we were looking for, and have clear application windows. And that's something that we have seen I think benefit a lot of our organizations and provide opportunities for them to receive funding. And I will say, while I'm talking about that, I think one of the things that we have been especially proud of through our grant making processes, whether it's through Empower Knox or Office of Neighborhoods or community safety grants or task force grants, is that we try to be accessible and provide opportunities for organizations that are high potential organizations. And we've seen that some of these organizations, through the opportunities the city has given them, have been able to leverage those to receive funding from whether it's philanthropic organizations or other funding agencies, or even to elevate to the level of receiving federal funding. And it all started with our willingness to invest in those organizations and help them build capacity. So that's something that...
Yeah, one example I think is like my daughter's
journey.
Yeah. Like we gave them like a really small grant.
Community safety grant a few years ago.
And now they're like
they're a
HUD grant
subawardee.
recipient.
Yeah. So
it's a big deal.
And that speaks to the work that we really try to promote and focus on in that empowerment and capacity building space, right? How can we help you get from where you are to where you want to be, and what supports or resources can we provide for that? The Empower Knox initiative also provides a high level of training and support for community-based organizations. So again, we realize that we are not the one doing these direct services, but we can support our community-based organizations with training, with networking opportunities, with information about other funding or other volunteer recruitment, whatever resources they may need. We can connect them to those opportunities to help enhance how they do their work. We also have great partnerships with the National League of Cities, and Emily has participated at a very high level in their Youth Excel and Re-engaging Opportunity Youth in the South initiatives. I think you've been presenting at one or two of those sessions, and so really having an opportunity to highlight the work that we're doing on a regional and national scale. And then when we think about the task force, which has been an adventure in forming, really trying to build something that there was no clear design or framework for. And so over the course of the last couple of years, we have really been able to support the task force in its organizational structure, but then taking the huge step in developing an actual framework that helps focus their goals and their initiatives, and then continuing to build those important relationships to help with that. This year, just a few weeks ago actually, they took a major step in starting the process of developing out subcommittees, which gives us an opportunity to bring in more community members, more partners, and subject matter experts to support the work of the task force, because we recognize that this is a really lofty goal and it's not something that the city can carry on its own, or an 11-member task force. And so thinking about how we can engage more folks in that work and open up opportunities for us to actually meet the goals that have been set before us.
And there's 3 priorities are housing, small business development, and education workforce?
Workforce development, and as a part of that is education, and then there's also a healthcare component that's related to the workforce equity piece, and then, as you said, housing and small business development. Yeah. We piloted last year the art grants, and so last year we were able to award approximately $150,000 to grant to organizations in our community, and we have done the same for this budget year and look forward to doing it again hopefully in next budget year. And those are really focused on organizations that are doing work to address the priority needs that you just mentioned in the East Knoxville area, which was the area that was most heavily impacted by urban renewal, which are kind of the parameters of the task force. And Dee Dee, since she's been with us, has done a really great job to look at developing systems to kind of help streamline some of the engagement between the community and the task force, and how we can make that most efficient, and also hit the ground running in helping to identify additional funding opportunities, either for the city to look at applying for in support of the work of the task force, whether it's through OCSC or other departments, but also connecting community partners to some of those opportunities where they may be the best applicant, and helping to support them through that process. And then lastly, of course, the Office of Community Safety. We last year launched, at the end of last year, launched our two additional Project TLC zones, and as Mayor's already mentioned, we have been out canvassing in those zones. I think we've done canvassing in each of the zones twice.
I think 3 times in East Knoxville.
3 times in East Knoxville, twice in the new zones. And we have started monthly neighborhood meetings in 2 of those zones, and are really seeing growth and development there, hearing from community members the things that they want to see, and then working with community and partners to implement some of the ideas and initiatives that they want to see. So it could be something.
And we got a big progress on that, the budget amendment
Yes.
Tuesday. One of the things Montgomery Village residents said was a big missing service was a playground.
A playground,
for kids.
yeah.
So now we have $100,000 approved.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some more matching funds from
Yeah.
other entities, and put something in there for kids, sooner rather than later. But
Absolutely.
knowing the need was part of it. So
Yeah.
I love doing those canvases, and one of my conclusions from that is, first of all, it's such a wide variety of people who live in those communities, and also literally, it seems like their concerns are really similar to the concerns in every neighborhood. I mean,
Right.
like speeding, litter, homeless. It's like you could be in West Hills or Montgomery Village, and it's not that different
Right.
of their concerns. I mean, then, there's some issues with safety, but when you're not in the middle of a safety crisis, and I think because of our Project TLC interventions and greater presence, like, people do feel safer. And so then they can be mad about not mad, worried about
Right. Be concerned
litter
about
and
it.
speeding,
Yes.
which is consistent in literally every single neighborhood.
Absolutely.
In Knoxville.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things that we find, and I know Alpha Neighborhoods could probably attest to that because they work with a wide range of neighborhoods, but I think all of us in the work that we do recognize that everyone, no matter where they live in our city, they want to be safe in their neighborhoods, they want to have access to amenities, right, and be able to enjoy the neighborhood. They want their kids to have something to do. And they want cars to slow down so that they can
Except for
enjoy
the
all
people who are actually in
amenities.
the fast cars.
Yeah.
Apparently, everyone else wants them to slow down.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
think the speeders come to the meetings.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think they're there. If they're there, they're the person that's quiet in the back. Yeah, probably me.
They're doing the traffic calming.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
like,
they have
traffic calm
things to
everyone but
say.
me. I'm not traffic. I'm need to get places fast. person.
But so those have been really successful, and as you mentioned, Mayor, it could be anything. When we have those conversations, we find that it could be anything from something really major, like we need a playground, to something like, could you just put a stop sign here because nobody stops and kids are crossing the street, or, hey, we want to have an event for Christmas. Can you help us put together a holiday event? And so thinking about what those needs are and just how we can support the quality of life in our communities that are most heavily impacted by violence, so that they continue to feel like a neighborhood and folks feel safe and supported in those communities. We have also worked really hard to establish our provider network, and as you mentioned a little bit earlier, have been able to see that in action. We've been able to reach out to our providers where we have an individual at high risk and say, hey, we have somebody who needs support, and they spring into action immediately and are able to engage that person in less than 24 hours. And so that's been a really critical piece. And then, of course, continuing to implement some of our other strategies, which I won't get into because I can talk about all day. But also continuing to think about how we're enhancing our data management capabilities, and how we're continuing to support our partners in the space. And so as we move into 2025, 26, I think that that's something that is really important to all of us overall. One of the things that we're really focused on is not only continuing to do great work, but thinking about how we can continue to communicate to community the work that's being done, both within OCSC and with the city as a whole, and making sure that folks, one, know what their city is doing to support them and are able to access the resources that we have available to them. And so that's something that we as a department are really focused on, and thinking about how we can continue to identify and implement efficiencies to help us do our work better. So one of the things that we're really thinking a lot about is something as simple. Well, I say simple, it probably won't end up being that simple, but like digitizing park records, right? We've got almost 3 decades of records that we have been collecting, and so how can we digitize those to make the work more efficient? So as we kind of move into 2025, our hope is that we can continue all of the great work that we've been doing through our grant processes and our community engagement pieces. And so we do have just a couple of asks that are related to that. One, the first ask that we have from an operating standpoint, which is a new request, is an additional $20,000 to pilot what we are calling our Neighborhood Capacity Building Initiative. And this would sit with the Office of Neighborhoods. And so they have, Office of Neighborhoods has the small grant program and the micro grant program. But what we find is a lot of our higher needs communities are not applying for those resources, whether because they just don't have the time or the capacity, or they're not organized in a way that allows them to apply in a meaningful way. And so what we would really like to do is using information available to us and data available to us from Knoxville, Knox County Planning, to identify a couple of few high priority areas we anticipate, but are not 100% certain. We'll go where the data leads us, that we will likely find that some of these places are also consistent with like either completely overlapping or near some of our Project TLC areas, also more than likely. But this would allow us to go into those neighborhoods, remove the application process, and say, hey, we want to sit down and we want to work with you on identifying some, small to mid-sized projects that you think as a neighborhood would help improve your community, and working with them on identifying those, building out a plan, and then financially supporting that initiative. And so we think that this could be a great way to make inroads with and connect to, build capacity for, and provide some immediate support for some of our higher priority neighborhoods who may not have the capacity at this point to access some of the opportunities that we already have available.
Okay.
And then the second request is a personnel request. And so, as we mentioned at the start, the Office of Neighborhoods currently has a full-time neighborhoods coordinator, a full-time assistant neighborhoods coordinator, and a part-time event planner and administrative support. That office does a lot of things and touches our community in a lot of ways. And as I mentioned, beyond Neighborhood Advisory Council and supporting the over 90 neighborhood organizations that they're working with new organizations coming on board every day, and releasing the newsletter on a regular basis, coordinating the neighborhood awards, the resource fair, the BSN, the Building Strong Neighborhood Organizations, the Neighborhood Advisory Council, the wiffle ball tournament, all of the things, and also trying to work with and support other city departments when we need to get information out to those communities. It is a lot of work that consumes a lot of hours and a lot of time, and a lot of that is also after hours. And so the staff in that office is pretty stretched with trying to meet the needs. And so we see an opportunity to elevate the part-time position to a full-time position to provide additional support in being able to host a lot of these meetings and attend some of the neighborhood meetings and support other city departments and meetings that they may be hosting or having or communicating with residents, and be able to provide some of these training opportunities and capacity building opportunities. We've gotten several requests to provide BS&O more frequently. Right now we're doing it once a year because that's all we have the capacity to do, and even that is kind of a stretch. And so elevating that position to full-time would just enhance the capacity of that office to meet the needs of the residents who are reaching out for their services.
Okay.
So those are the
Well,
extent of our
thank you so
requests.
much. I think you've been very thorough, and I don't have any questions. These are, good requests, and we'll see how the revenues unfold and that sort of thing. We always have greater needs than we have resources for, but I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Look forward to seeing you tonight. I'm going to go to KPD graduation, and I'll come over as soon as I can leave that event. I'll be over there and look forward to it. Should be fun.
Now, Mayor, I do have one request. Being next door to La Kenya now, I'd like to put in a furniture request, the blue Kentucky furniture.
I don't know.
It's triggering me when I walk by.
She went to UT for law school.
I went to UT for law school.
I've
and
enjoyed being next to La Kenya.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
think,
fun.
you can take advantage of our city benefits. You get a few counseling services. They can help you process what's happening to you.
I got it. Touche.
All right, thank you. Keep up the good
I
work.
thought you were going to request like noise counseling.
No, listen, your office is like zen. There's candles, I can go in there and I'll like.
Candles, candy.
That's candy.
Plants.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
That's what I thought.
Good to see everyone from Parks and Rec. You each have a little splash of color, which is always fun. Orange, red, green, and pink.
By the way, Cheryl Ely has a pretty good social media presence.
Yes.
If I don't see something from Cheryl Ely every couple hours, I'm like, where's Cheryl?
Can you get the angle from there though?
Love it.
Anyhow, I'm really excited about our parks master plan process that's underway. I guess we're a couple months into that, so looking forward to the recommendations and vision that come out of that. And I know, among other things, that will make us eligible for some grants, which is always good. But also, I just think it's, our parks have never been more heavily used and appreciated, and wear and tear.
Yes.
And so, how can we just be ready for the parks of the 2030 and beyond, and meet the expectations of our community. And, and occasionally we have some public-private partnerships that aid to that. We just, proved that, a lot of stuff with Lakeshore Park. But we have so many great parks, and literally, it's like the happy interactions that people have with the city. So much of what the city does is essential services, like, stormwater, trash collection, stuff that's super important, but it doesn't really spark joy necessarily. It's great, and like if it goes wrong, it's like an emergency. But the stuff that people have with our parks does create joy and good health, and it's just an essential part of what we do that I'm really proud of. So I'm excited about the master plan. Looking forward to hearing your presentation today, and so I'll let you go to it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so very much for allowing us to come in to present our operation. I want to say I'm Cheryl Ely. Aaron Brown is the Deputy Director. Angie Davidson is our admin supervisor. And we also brought two of our interns, Faith Barrett and Caleb Hall, who are interning with us. They are two of the probably 6 or 7.
10.
Wow.
In the 10, we got 10 that are helping us with our master plan as well as some other activities that we're doing. So we're excited to have them on board.
Are they
So
Baker Center, or are they?
we have one from the Baker Center.
Baker Center, all right.
Baker School.
Baker School.
Baker
Sorry.
School. Baker School.
All right.
So yeah, so that's been one of the great things that we've had. So I wanted to make sure that we brought them along so they're happy to see the behind the scenes of what happens. So we're glad we have them with us. As it looks like in your booklet here, what you all are looking at first is our normal operating before personnel. And so starting off, our first one is janitorial supplies. In that case, what we've done is we've removed the supplies from the contractor. What we realized, it was hard for the contractor to budget what would happen. So if someone went in and removed all the rolls of toilet paper, they were having to now go back and replace it. Bottom line was having an issue, so we kind of basically took that over.
Is that just like vandalism, or are they taking it and bringing it home to use?
Oh, it could be either or.
Mayor, there's a support group for people destroying public bathrooms.
Yeah.
It's like literally, I do not
It's horrible.
understand.
It's gotta be.
There's a psychology behind it. I don't know what it is. And it's very male dominated. It's usually the men's restroom, correct?
It's
It is, yeah.
It's weird.
It is very weird, but
Okay.
acceptance is sometimes.
So to have a low-cost budget contractor come in and having to offset that cost, we just kind of included it in ours. So we kind of did looked at some of the numbers and was able to come up with a number to fit that. So that's kind of where that budget came into effect.
There's more than just toilet paper.
It's toilet paper, it's replacing the soap, paper towels. And again, we've included lots of bathrooms now. So Lakeshore has, at least 6 on there.
They're really nice and
They're
very
really, really
clean.
nice.
I just was
hate to
there
say I
last
call them
weekend.
Taj Mahal's of bathrooms, but they are nice. They are nice. So, but that's one of the things. So, but having to be able to replace that's kind of that budget amount, because we don't really know until we have to use it.
Okay.
Our second one is about our outdoor and janitorial contract increase. So for a long time, we had MBS as our contractor. We just went probably January.
It started in January.
In January, we went with a new company, Jowers, who is our new contractor. And as we've seen with anything that we have, and I guess going through the rest of this list, is that the cost of doing business has increased. And so our contracts have come back a little higher than normal. And so the contract that we were able to get and work with Jowers, it was a little short, and so.
They do all the bathrooms in all the parks that have bathrooms.
Yes, yes.
How many is that?
30?
Like Tyson, Morningside, Lakeshore, Sequoia.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have a lot of-
Caswell.
Caswell.
A lot.
Yep.
Victor
I can't
Ash.
remember
Oh,
off
that's
the top of my
6.
head.
So it's like, but not, it's under 10. I mean, because we have 90 parks. So
Oh, it's over 10.
Oh, it's over 10. Oh, yeah, Fountain City has
Yes, it's over
bathrooms.
10. Yeah, so I can't remember.
Uh-huh.
At first, in my mind, I kept thinking it was 19, but
Plus
I may be wrong.
Baker Creek.
Plus Baker Creek.
And
then
Baker
the
Creek's
other one, the
Part
other
2,
one
whatever, whatever that name is going to be.
And then,
What's that going to be called? Augusta Quarry. But the Baker Creek Urban Wilderness Gateway Park.
Yeah, and this increase also factors in the future, so what's
Okay.
happening in the spring and then also in the fall for those restrooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Restrooms are expensive to build, and then you gotta maintain them.
There was many years ago, about 30 years ago, there was a facilities person, Mr. Householder, that I think spent his career trying to remove all the bathrooms. And we've been slowly putting them all back, because you gotta have them, so.
Yep, if not, we got.
Well, the alternative
I
is,
don't know
Porta
what's
you know,
great right now.
Porta potties.
is, or people just going anywhere, and that's not safe or sanitary, and it's just
Yep.
gross.
Yeah.
Okay. Costs are going up in janitorial, okay?
Yes, absolutely. The next one's about pest control, and again, the cost of doing business. The contractor that we had an increase. Adrian Hill is our contractor, and so that $7,000 is basically an increase in their services, in the contract amount.
Okay. This is pest control outside or inside? What are we talking about here? Like-
It's inside, They do some outside if there's any issues, but most of it's inside.
And it's also the addition of wildlife removal. We had not had that before, so there's an hourly rate for that in our parks as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
Wildlife.
Wildlife removal from inside, like our community centers, or,
Some.
okay. All right.
Some.
Yeah, raccoons, skunks.
Yes.
Birds.
Yes.
I've had them, we've had
Bats.
a nest of possums in our house, in like, you know, the in-between spaces of our houses, so, yeah, I get it. Safety City?
Safety City, so as you all are aware, we assumed Safety City in January. And as we were looking at the budget, and I have to commend Aaron for doing a great job of going through and getting them all together and trying to understand where they are with what they needed. We realized that there was a little shortfall. They have 2 ponds on their property that no one really realized that was there, that had some issues that they need to have addressed. We had a contract with Solitude. And so that's one of the things that we need to look at.
There's 2 ponds over there?
There's 2 ponds.
Like
inside.
natural ponds or like retention ponds?
I think they're retention.
Yeah, when we built the facilities, retention facilities,
There's a fountain.
it wasn't the
There's a
pre-modern
fountain?
bridge.
I mean, it's that tall, but
No, and one question though, when
Never-
we took this over from KPD, the idea was we could be more efficient. And you want to do more programming, are you looking at ways to generate potential revenue from that
We are.
programming?
Yeah, birthday parties or whatever?
Yeah, so what is the plan for that? We were hoping that would be neutral, I think, when we took that over.
Gotcha. Well, we went in and like I said, the first thing was we had to figure out what they had and what they needed. And the biggest thing is they have a security system, they had janitorial, all those things that were not included in that. So we added those things in. These things we can, if we need to go ahead and have those birthday parties and everything, we can make that revenue happen, working with finance to allocate that funding. Right now, we're just trying to get them on board and get them
When you
trained
say
with us.
them, what do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry,
them?
Safety City staff.
Who used to be KPD employees and now
staff.
they're Parks and Rec employees?
Now Tack Parks
Because the
and Rec.
concept was.
But all the money that KPD was using should transfer over to
it did.
you?
We did.
Okay,
Yeah,
so but there were some things operations that you were unmet?
Yeah, I'll just say, for instance, they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have security cameras.
KPD didn't have security cameras? That's interesting.
The security alarm, the maintenance of it was $215 per year. We have much better alarm systems in our community centers, access control and things like that. So some of it's bringing the building and the operations up to our standards that we have at community centers.
Okay.
And the goal of that, just, Councilman, was to, Chief Noel said, really focus KPD on the things that KPD is good at, and this is more in Parks and Rec. So the alignment was.
And the KPD safety educators, can come over on an as-needed basis to do safety education. But we can have Vision Zero events there, but are there private events there?
At this time, there is
I think it'd be
not.
wildly popular.
Yes,
Yes.
So let's
figure that out.
Yeah, because I mean, there's the times where it's a public open park, but then there's times just like we charge fees for people to reserve pavilions and stuff. So this would be really popular, I think. Okay.
The next one is our art center instructor budget. So what we've seen is our art center, which we know will be moving into Western Heights, but we've had an increase in programming that people have asked for. And as that's happened, some of the things are specialized, and we have instructors that are out teaching these classes. And we do a percentage with them of kind of what we cover and what they cover. And so we're just trying to offset that budget a little bit from what they're having.
And did you have any chance to analyze, like,
City.
city residents pay for this? People who are taking our classes and don't pay property taxes are getting subsidized by city residents, so we should charge them more.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do that?
Are we doing that?
Yeah.
We have not done that. We're
Let's
looking
do
at
it.
that because we're looking at between that and when we start over at Western Heights, and we were going to have the sliding scale fees. So we were working out that at the same time.
But we don't have to wait.
Yeah, if you're.
It's really a lot to ask, a city with, 53% renters to be subsidizing people from perhaps more affluent areas. Not that we don't want them to be able to sign up, but I feel like city residents should get priority slots and, the same, the city residents, I don't want to jack up their prices, but if the people who aren't contributing to their property taxes are, that we should be able to charge them more. Because otherwise they're just free riders.
Yeah, there should be, I'm assuming we can do a market analysis. There's Mighty Mud, which is a private pottery, like what are they charging? So, if somebody's coming in from an outside county, community, not a city resident, there should be a corresponding fee. Okay. And my guess is that'll open up more slots for city residents and they can go to the private sector. So, yeah.
So we don't need to wait. The Western Heights thing, that's not gonna be ready this year, and it's probably not gonna be ready next year. Like, we don't need to wait on that. I think I'd like you to move forward. And that can easily cover, for example,
25,000.
Yeah, I don't know, but, we won't know until we try. But I'm guessing that our prices we're getting more popular because our prices relative to private entities are way more affordable.
A little bit less, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we'll definitely look at that one.
Yeah.
And come back with that. The next one is security, and so we're working with PBA on this one to just kind of offset our security. So what happens is we use extra security at pools, and sometimes using some of our basketball games. At the pools, we've kind of outlined that we use them a couple days a week instead of every day while they're there, but it's normally during the summer for a lot of those. And then also just at our basketball games, it's just a lot of people in one place, and our staff is dedicated to make sure that things are safe, and having an extra hand and an extra body is a little bit more than we're asking. There's a little more than we're asking for. And again,
we need, I think our basketball games and some of our events, we need security there.
Yeah.
I think 20, 30 years ago, it was a little different.
Yes.
Our rec staff could handle it. Just expectations now at our
This is for
facilities.
youth sports?
This is youth sports,
This is all youth
basketball,
sports.
gym.
But people get really hot-headed about
Yes.
stuff like
Really,
that.
and it's not getting any better. And so, this is one, when it came in, we've already had some discussion. It just has to happen because we're not trained security officers.
Right.
We need to do what we do. And
Absolutely.
so,
People also need to chill out.
Yes.
They're not.
If we could fix that, we'd be happy. We would definitely be happy.
Okay.
The next one is Augusta Quarry Operations, and so we've got these great amenities happening at Augusta Quarry. We're ready to start for summer, and what we wanted to try to do is look for a third-party vendor if possible, to have them kind of look at the operations there. We have the bathrooms that are there. We want to make sure that garbage is being picked up. We want to make sure that any rentals that we have out for any of the equipment that may be there is handled, but also walking along the street, and we still have to, because the road is not paved, we'll still have to water the road. So we're looking for that outside vendor to see if that is a
Is the road
possibility.
going to be paved?
Not this year.
There's going to be, you're going to share with me a plan for the operations. I haven't, except I don't know what the plans are.
We haven't bid it out yet.
yeah,
So we bid it out, this
this is a plug number. We don't know what the market's going to
So we
respond.
can respond to contracting with a new firm that will provide operations and management of the new facilities when we open this season.
But, this budget won't go into effect till July 1st. We're going to open before July 1st, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, lot of happy news, but again, as we open more parks, the cost of operating them and maintaining them gets bigger.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it's a good thing, but it's,
We still have great
fiscal reality.
spaces, so that's what we're always excited about.
Yes.
We have great spaces.
Yeah.
The last one is from IMES, and they were looking at a contract increase, and so they're asking, I guess it's been a number of years before they've got the same amount for the last probably 10 years, and so as they have increased their programming, as well as the number of visitors and operations that are happening, they've asked for a kind of a steady increase, kind of cost of living. So they're asking for an additional amount as well as an annual inflation rate. And so that was the request that we put in and talking through for them.
Okay. Good to know. All right, we'll move on to personnel.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Well, IAMS, just before we leave IAMS, like, they're in the middle of some
a capital plan.
capital plan and just sort of updating their whole vision of service and so forth, so I guess this is consistent with that.
I think there's two things. IAMS has a big capital plan. We contributed $1.5 million to that, 500. We're done with that. Our operating, the demands at IAMS are pretty significant. They've wanted some more ongoing, just day-to-day operating, so we'll have to evaluate the ability to do that. But this is really just about keeping the doors open.
Yes.
It's just a lot more use.
Yes.
And we've been the consistent funder of IAMS
Yes.
since they started.
Yep.
And I think they're doing a really good job looking for other revenue streams, but this is just trying to do the basics. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next one is personnel, and again, we talk about our master plan, and we know that was one of the asks as we looked at our master plan, is to look at these positions. I left it in here for our permanent part-time to full-time positions, so I left that in here as one of those things that we wanted to kind of look at. And that's 6 positions, and again, we are working with as we work through the master plan to look at that, but really just trying to get them some of the remainder of their benefits. So one of the things they do not receive is annual leave. So every 2 years, we see a modification with that position.
Well, I hope one of the things the master plan looks at is how we allocate staff. Is it better to have more more full-time but fewer positions, and how, just how do we allocate that? Because if you go to full-time, maybe you don't need as many people, for example. But anyhow, and seasonal, sometimes your seasonal needs is a pretty unique department, like, you don't need lifeguards in the winter,
We use them, we do use our lifeguards in the winter. They keep our lifeguards, we keep our pools open. We have those 2 indoor pools. And so they are open and used in the winter, and so we do have
Well, you need
lifeguards
fewer
there.
lifeguards.
Yes, fewer lifeguards, yes.
Okay.
The next one is Safety City again. Aaron looked at this one, looking at that one. So Safety City, we realized that we had one person that was a 24-hour person, and we wanted to try to move that person to a full-time position. Right now, when he was trying to meet with them, she didn't have enough time because of how structured they are to even be able to have a staff meeting, because she has another position outside of that. So just looking at that and trying to figure out how to make that work with Safety City.
When they say training specialist, what is that?
That's their title.
That's the title.
So the title of
That's a title, that's a KPD leftover title.
Yes. So there's 1 Safety City coordinator and 4 training specialists. 3 are full-time, 1's 24-hour position.
Maybe one can be transferred to birthday party coordinator and revenue neutral
When they have,
planner.
for their field trips, they stay pretty busy. First and second grade field trip, so. But yeah, we're looking at a potential.
But that's
title
only
change.
during the school day.
Right.
Right, okay. All right, well, there's a lot of opportunities at Safety City to just now that it's in Parks and Rec instead of KPD, we'll sort of have to reevaluate how we do that and how we can best use that resource for the community, so.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, athletic
The
payroll?
last one, and again, we know in the master plan, we're looking at all of this. We did ask for probably a 30% increase just to kind of add a couple of bumps up to some of our rates that we are assigning to some of our positions. And so we did ask for that instead of the entire amount. We're just kind of looking at a few positions and allocating that funding to kind of help with that.
All right.
And that's
Well,
all.
yeah, that's, thank you for presentation. Again, I'm really excited about the master plan. I think I have a meeting with the consultants on my calendar and looking forward to, having that conversation. And, yeah, a lot of good things happening. So I'm excited about Augusta Corey coming on board, returning to, reopening with bathrooms.
Yes.
That'll be really good. And, let's keep having those conversations. I know we had security with PBA, like that has become a little steadier.
Mm-hmm. It's getting better.
Okay,
We're still working through it, but yes, ma'am.
yeah,
That's good.
okay. Any other questions? Okay,
Just one quick,
yeah, sure.
Director Lee, you and the mayor mentioned it a minute ago with the discussion about vandalism, but, we're seeing vandalism at Lake Shore. I know you're very aware of it. I think we had a recent, like in the last week or so, a recent issue there, which is similar to ones we've seen in the past. What kind of things are you looking to doing to augment security at Lake Shore, maybe other parks, to prevent this kind of damage?
Well, we're working with KPD right now, so we have a meeting coming up to kind of look at some of their assistance with some of our parks. And we've done that in the past, and we'll just continue that conversation. Also working with PBA to see what they can do to kind of look at some of it, because most of it's happening after hours where there's really no one else there. So having those cameras has been a really a good tool to use. We also are looking at, I think we have a little bit of funding that was left from last year to put some in a couple other parks. Victor Ash Park, one of our regional parks, heavily used, and so parks like that, we need to start looking at where we put our cameras and our infrastructure to keep it safe.
Those cameras you installed, previously, is that why we were able to see an image of
Yes.
the people that were doing the damage here recently?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you. All right, let's see. Yep. Mr. Johnson, thanks for taking a long walk over here. Yeah.
Spot the drain.
Yeah. Well, we're ready to have you. We're running a little early, but if you're ready, we'll go ahead and move to your requests. Thank you, Cheryl, and
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Vice Mayor sends his regrets. He's traveling for his day job, so that's why he can't join us this morning.
Okay.
We have two requests. The first is for some meeting management enhancements. I originally brought this request a year or so ago, and we were able to partially fund it, but we're looking to fund it more fully. This would allow for City Council to stream its own meetings and index those meetings so the public or anyone could, go back after a meeting is completed and, pick a meeting agenda item and go straight to that item in terms of the video feed. So whenever we began discussing the budget amendment on Tuesday, you could go straight to that point in the meeting. You don't have to hunt and search for it. It would also allow us to host our meeting videos on the same website that our agendas and minutes live on. At present, those live, the recordings of our meetings live on CTV's website or their YouTube page. We of course appreciate CTV doing that and
Knoxville Community Media.
Yes, sorry,
That's okay.
yes, old habits die
Old
hard.
habits, yeah.
But it's not necessarily the most convenient environment for the public to find our meetings. Sometimes we get people confused about where they can find our.
So this would be two places for the same thing, a little bit of redundancy built in?
There might be some, yeah,
I mean-
they would presumably continue to post them where they are posting them now, but they could also live on our website and people could find them a little more conveniently.
The indexing would be a big deal.
It would be. The Planning Commission has this service available and people talk about how convenient that is for people to be able to find.
I figured this out and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of time.
It is
Yeah.
really great.
Like the software is like, we'll say this agenda item starts at minute 22:36 or something like that.
And it's fairly automated, so it wouldn't require a lot of effort on my part to do this manually. It would be somewhat automated because I would be doing it in the meeting. When we go to the next
Oh.
agenda item, it would be.
You're a little busier in meetings these days.
Yes, I am.
Because now the new system, shows who proposed and who seconded a motion, and the speaker, it's all right up there on the screen in real time.
Yeah, I've been doing that on paper for years,
Yeah.
but now we've transitioned to the laptop and doing that on the computer. So, yeah,
It's an adjustment.
it is an
Yeah,
adjustment.
well, it seems like it's going pretty smoothly from my perspective, so.
We've had some technical issues, but we're working through them. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's exciting. Our second request is just to supplement our travel budget for the legislative branch. We have 3 full-time staff members and, of course, 9 city council members. Our current travel budget does not really envision all of us traveling with any level of frequency. We can really only support maybe a staff member or 2 traveling once or twice a year, and maybe a council member or 2 traveling again once or twice a year. There's not enough to really fund council members traveling. And of course, we'll have 5 new members of council traveling, or rather 5 new members of council coming on board in December. And they may have increased travel needs because they'll all be brand new and they may want to travel to Nashville for training, for example, with different conference and things.
Okay. All right, I think I understand the requests. I don't know, you all have any questions? Yeah?
The things that have been funded the last couple of years, they've all gone well. I mean, from a records preservation standpoint and the fireproofing, you feel good about those? And
Yeah.
We're done, right? I mean, on those.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, any other questions? Okay.
I'll
Thank,
just
oh
jump
yeah,
in
sure,
and
of course.
Give the thanks to Will and Savannah and Angela for all that they do for us. And Mayor, I just mentioned that indexing piece, I think, is really a good idea for council's meetings, to have them hosted on the same page as the agenda. I know that's something we had talked about a couple of years ago, getting funding for, but I think that's a really good idea for just making it easier for the public to access what we're talking about. So that's good. And then with the travel budget, I'm not really familiar with where we are with the travel budget now, but a couple of years ago, we were having to share. So you'd basically have an announcement from someone saying, hey, I'm going to travel, but I don't have enough money, so we would look for money to share travel expenses. So that's also something to pay attention to, so I can understand that.
Yeah, the travel budget's unchanged,
Yeah.
largely, in terms of the dollar amount.
Well, I just don't know if that sharing thing has still been going on.
We've not had a lot of requests from members wanting to travel lately, so not had to do that lately. So.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, and Keith, thank you for being here early. I think you weren't scheduled till, 12 a.m. actually, it says here. But since you're here, if you don't mind, we just go ahead and get started a little early.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Then we can finish
I'll
early.
be the closer.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, let's see. I don't know if it's, yeah, here's KGIS. Okay, thanks, I appreciate this, Mayor, for being able to present the KGIS budget for the fiscal year 2026. You may not know it, you may know it. This is the 40th year anniversary for KGIS. Started back in 1985, and I actually have the original 1985 analysis document, not even in digital format, that talks about why GIS is important. And one of the things I noticed in here is that the analysis documented in this report required and received the full-hearted support of Knox County, the city of Knoxville, and KUV. So I'm hoping that I get your full support for my budget request.
You have a good track record.
Anyway, I'm not sure what voice actually distributed out to everybody. Maybe just this one
Just a
page.
simple one-page thing, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But in general, we are asking for a small increase to the operating. I think I may have mentioned this to you before, is that the county in particular asked me if I could, if at all possible, keep from asking for an increase to the KGIS budget. And I've gone through really as tough as I can to go through the budget and to see what I can pull back. And I've pulled back on some categories significantly, including training and some other operational machine replacements. We've kind of put some of those things on hold. But I'm still coming to you for a $7,890 increase over last year's budget. And the major reason for that is to really support the salary increases. I really think it's important. I've got a great staff of 8 folks at KGIS, and it's important, I think, to keep those folks employed with us. They have lots of expertise, and I'm hoping that the 3% is what I'm hoping to receive as part of this budget of a salary increase. That will be contingent upon the county. The county, many times we will budget for an increase at KGIS, and the county will usually be lower than that, so we always revert the budget, the actual budget request, we revert back to whatever the county agrees upon at its final budget approval later this year. So, other than that, I think we do have 2 significant projects that are coming up this year. They're really going to be demanding not only for us at KGIS, but also for the city engineering in particular. All of the GIS software that we're all using collectively is moving to a new version that is the most significant change since about 2007. So it's a pretty significant leap forward. Where the current software that we're sitting on and that we all utilize now will no longer be supported in the first part of 2026. So it's important for us to move to that new version now as soon as we can. So we've got plans to work with the city engineering department in particular for ward map maintenance, stormwater data, all of their GIS data management uses this GIS software. So we'll be helping them transition to that new platform. The other big project we have that is important is another acquisition of aerial photography, including what we call orthogonal view, and plus the oblique views, the 360 views. But we also want to update the hydrographic data. It's been, I guess, 8, almost 10 years since we've updated the hydrographic data. It's currently vintage 2016. And I think important for the integrity of the maps that we all use as the KGIS base maps, it's important to get that hydrographic layer up consistent with the rest of the data that we have. And that hydrographic data is used by especially the engineering departments in particular. Things like depressions and any type of new building permits that come through, they look at that topographic data and the hydrographic data for erosion runoff, all that.
Okay.
Just in a nutshell, that's it when it comes to just the overall view of KGIS. Things are in a good state. I think we're doing really well. I'm very proud of the work that we've done over the past year, and I hope that the next year will be another great year of success for us. So.
Yeah, KGIS has definitely been a leader in the region, if not broader, for 30 plus years now. So, and how long have you been with KGIS?
I've been 36 of the 40 years. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of.
So seen a lot of change over that time. So.
Mm-hmm. Can you help me understand? We just had a budget presentation from Knoxville, Knox County Planning, and Terry Gahula's group does GIS also. Mm-hmm. So tell me what the difference is between planning's GIS work and your GIS work.
Yeah. To be honest, we're all intertwined. We all, KGIS is somewhat unique, I think, especially in Tennessee and actually around the nation, because we are multi-jurisdictional, not only between the city and the county, but also with the utilities, with KUB. And we share a network. We're, I think, the only organization that shares a network amongst all those three organizations, including Knox Planning, 911, Knox County Schools. But KGIS is really responsible for the centralized core. We house the database, and the mission of KGIS is to really have all of the different respective departments, including Knox Planning, as they compile their respective pieces of information, especially
So they're like another client?
Yeah,
really?
they're a client of KGIS,
Okay.
absolutely. They're one of the partners. So Knox Planning maintains things like important critical pieces like the addressing data that we all utilize, the subdivisions for the county. Knox Planning is responsible for putting those into the system. For the city, your city engineering group is responsible for putting in the subdivisions for the city.
So, the simple way to look at it is you're the base document. Others feed into that base document.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, Terry's stuff is, the foundation is KGIS.
That's right. We're kind of like the centralized core. So we have all of these folks that are contributing to the bucket.
He uses your data to help us create maps and layers and
Yeah.
whatever.
Now there are some data layers that we don't have a department that's able to maintain that. So we at KGIS sometimes think that we need to go ahead and do that at KGIS.
Give us an example.
And those are things like topographic data, the building footprints, edge of traveled way, edge of pavement. We actually have a mapper that goes over every time we fly aerial photography. They sit and actually redigitize the building footprints. We have a non-staff person, and we're able to do that where you don't have to actually pay a client to do that for us. And that's the importance of having senior level personnel.
Right.
Is that they're able to do those skills. But there are some things like even the parks map. Believe it or not, the parks folks don't really maintain the data that shows up on KGIS. It's actually maintained by my office and Knox Planning. The parks folks just don't really have the personnel yet to maintain all those individual the playgrounds and all that information that shows up on KGIS. We jump in and help supplement that to make sure that we at least have a good community-wide map as best as possible. So points of interest, things like schools, churches, things like that. There's really no agency that's responsible for maintaining that data, so we at KGIS took it upon our responsibility to do that. We just released a historical maps application that we thought was really important for looking at old street maps in particular to see what previous names used to be. It's really nice to be able to pull up the current data and overlay some of these old 1900 vintage maps behind the current map to see what the names used to be and where they used to reside. So we felt like that was something that was missing. It would be nice to go ahead and spring up an application like that might have some real benefit to everybody.
I wonder if we've used those in some of our Reconnecting Communities webpage shows like, this is what it looked like before, and this is what it might look after. I don't know. I'm sure it's all connected to
But anyway,
some
it's just,
data
those are
you
the
put
types of
together.
things that we try to fill in the gaps of when there's not an assigned agency amongst all of our parties that can maintain some of this core data. We jump in and try to do that. Keeping the public website up to date and operational has become a major task for us. That's our fourth partner. We have the city, the county, the KUB, other partners, but our fourth partner is really the public. And when we created that public website about 15 years ago, we didn't realize just how much of a fourth partner that was going to be. And so keeping that website operational, so that as part of your city council meetings, making sure that our website, we have to schedule maintenance at times other than, the live meetings that occur.
We
So
understand,
we have to work
we
around
understand
that.
the fourth partner.
Yeah, and so like every time that we find out that the city council's been canceled or something, we're all right, that means we could potentially do some data maintenance stuff. Because, we're trying to struggle, or we're trying to arrange our, personnel's time. There's only 8 of us to truly do a lot of this after hours maintenance and that requires the system to actually go offline for short durations. So.
Okay.
But you're still leasing space right down the road, right?
What's that?
You're still leasing space right down the road?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're still in that space at 606 Main Street. So, and it's really convenient. That way we're able to get to the city county. Most of our production level machines and servers actually reside in this building downstairs. And so therefore it's protected with all that that comes with the city and the county IT. But we have just our personnel are positioned over there.
Okay. All right, well, appreciate your presentation and 36 years of service.
Okay.
And I know that in the policy board, we talked about succession planning, because
Yes.
you have a lot of experience, and, you know, if everyone left all at once, we'd be in trouble. So I know we already had that discussion in another venue, but yeah, so it's a very high-quality, high-performing group, and appreciate all the work you do. And we'll put this in the pile of requests.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
your all's consideration.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Mr. Bradshaw, it's
Yes,
good to
ma'am.
see you, second time,
Thank you.
second day in a row. Well, third day, because you were at city council
Yeah,
too, so nice to see you, appreciate all your work.
thank you.
Will you introduce the rest of your team?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you again. Yeah, I was Nicholas Bradshaw, Civil Service Merit Board Executive Secretary. Been with the city for 16 years. As I said yesterday, one of those, or a few of those years, 4 of those years were spent as an HR analyst in civil service, and that's what led to, I think, my assignment with the temporary assignment now, which I've been in since October. And with me is one of our senior analysts and top members of our team, Laura Peck. I'm gonna give the whole bio, if you could, please.
I'll give a short-term bio. I've been with the city for 6 years. It'll be 6 years later this month.
You were UT grad in organizational development or HR?
HR,
HR.
yes. Yes, and I was able to get my master's degree while working here, so.
Awesome,
Oh.
good stuff.
With the tuition reimbursement
Yes.
help? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
So Laura's been
That's
a
what we
really
like to hear.
integral part of a lot of the things we've been working on over the last 6 months. I think
Right.
it's been 7 months. So I did want to highlight a couple of items, if I could, please. Structured sort of like I did yesterday. I've got 3 items I want to really hit. Initiatives that we've been working on in civil service since I've been there in October. Partnership and collaboration is one. We really emphasized working with a lot of our city partners and outside partners as well on working together on collaborations and big initiatives. I think some of our big success stories have been the public service recruiting event that we did in January and the KFD recruiting event we did in February, which had very high turnout, and we were able to process a great many applications that
I know when I saw you, were like, we're bringing in more computers and more tables and
Yes.
chairs. That was a good problem.
Yeah, we ended up, we had to add a bunch of extra tables, and we had 16 laptops going at one time.
Wow.
For a while there, all full. So a big event, great success, and the public service event was much the same. So I think our ability to be flexible and work with other members of the city team as a unit and make these events a success was really were team efforts. But so that I'm really proud of that we've done over the last few months. Another that was item 1. Item 2 is we've done a lot with technology and modernization in our office, which I'm really proud of. We're working really hard with the Mark Parker and his IS team on the Oracle Cloud migration, which is going to include a big revamp to our application process. It's going to change how we do business for the better. Really excited about that. We have a lot of technical issues that I think keep our application numbers artificially down that we're going to resolve. I'm really optimistic we're going to resolve. We've been working really hard, especially lately, on a lot of design meetings and things, which I'm really excited to get that going in the coming months. My successor will probably fully implement that, but we're doing a lot of the design work right now, which is really good. Also, we
In that position, just since you talked about your successors, that position's posted, and
Yes.
is it still open right now, or just got a couple more weeks?
It closes the 7th tomorrow.
No, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put in for it, man. It's gonna be great.
We've got a pretty competitive applicant pool, I think.
Yeah, I've heard it was
So-
a significant
Yeah, what-
response.
Yeah, we're
Like,
70 and something
Wow.
today?
71.
71, yeah.
wow.
So. It's
That's
like-
for one position? That's a
Yeah.
huge, I mean, that's
Yeah,
a big
so-
pool.
Yeah, and counting, so a selection committee's going to have its work cut out for them. Also, we've, in terms of technology, we really pushed out a lot of online testing, enabling our applicants to test online rather than report to on-site, and I think that has helped with some of our numbers as far as getting applicants through the process and ultimately getting higher quality applicants to the interviewers, to the employers. So that's something we've been working really hard on. Area 3 is just recruiting effectiveness. You know, I think we've been able to get our numbers up, as I mentioned before, with some of our creative approaches to events, but just in the technology we worked on, trying to get more applicants, better applicants is what we keep pushing for. And the budget amendment that was approved on Tuesday had some funds in it to help us with pay for things like sponsored postings on paid recruiting platforms like Indeed.
Yeah, how does that intersect with this request?
Well, this is that was for this.
Sustain it.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So that budget amendment was to help us with our initiatives this year, right now, which we're trying to do. We've got a sponsored posting for the KFD applicant that's posted now. We did one for the Worker One, Public Service Worker One job that we had the big event for. But these are ways to make those jobs appear in searches, make them higher up on the lists, on those results lists, and just make them more apparent and reach more people. That's what
SEO optimized or whatever those spaces are, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. That's the idea. So we'd like to continue doing that going forward. I think we've seen some success. We do have a lot of good metrics on the number of folks who reached us through the Indeed posting, for instance, and then showed up to the Worker One event and then were ultimately interviewed and offered a position. So they work. We want to continue investing in it, and I think the results for a relatively modest investment, results will really be apparent on continuing some of those big pushes. So that's the one request we had was basically to continue that little bump in our publicity budget now, which is the primary line item that we use for these sorts of things, is $3,000, which is pretty inadequate. But we put together a model that shows how much more reach we could get and we'd be selective. We wouldn't be going full court on every single job, but especially for the jobs, professional level jobs like engineer, financial analyst, some of the other jobs we can do LinkedIn recruiting and have some success with, and then other platforms like Indeed for more of our blue collar works has a good reach for that. So that's our one request.
Well, it seems to me like this could ultimately, save us money in terms of turnover or vacancies that persist when we're paying people overtime or whatever. Seems like a small increase to, fill our ranks with as strong a pool of people as possible. So I'm really excited. I really appreciate all the work the civil service has done. It's been a time of transition in the labor market, and we created an HR department, so, hello HR department is right back there. We really appreciate the partnerships, internal and external, and I think the city employment and city employees and our whole core of employment is just getting better all the time. Yeah. So this is a great presentation, and seems like a good proposal to me.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I'll definitely applaud our friends in HR. Every success we've had has been a joint success with them. So it's a good partnership, and I think we're excited to keep it going.
Right, and Laura, it's nice. I'm sure our paths have crossed before, but I see your emails all the time with the new jobs coming up, and I'm like, okay, name, face, I'm connecting them now. So. And
I'm glad Laura's here because every time I hear kind of rising star future of civil service, your name's brought up. So that's a kudos to you. So
thank you.
Any other questions for civil service? No? Okay. Thank you so much, and thanks for coming early. Just frees up our schedule a little bit, so appreciate that.
We are flexible and adaptable in civil service.
That's it. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me turn to special events. All right.
So Kendra is out of the country. She'll be back.
I know, she texted me a photo from Prague.
Oh,
I was
good.
like, oh.
I think we started her international journey last year.
Evidently, she got a passport now. She can barely
She's
stay
going.
stateside.
She's going.
Good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
So the only additional request that special events has is for a software package that will increase efficiencies and allow them to navigate through all these events much more efficiently. Last year, Kendra and I were talking about all the different events that they have to handle and all the processes that they go through to navigate these with the events planners. Not only the event planners, but with our Parks and Rec Department and Visit Knoxville Film Office. So we were talking about adding another staff member, but then we looked at what other ways could we increase efficiencies. And Kendra came up with e-approval. So this e-approval software will help them do everything they need to do, which right now is all on paper, and these two binders are this year's events.
Wow.
And
That's
not
very
even all,
analog.
That's not even all of
Yes.
them. So I'm gonna let Elaine talk about what they do now.
So currently, we have the process that everybody has to submit a special event application. If they're doing a road race, we have additional forms for them to do. Then they get sent to us and we send them on to KPD of what district that needs to go to. If they're having tents or anything else blocking a road, we personally send that to the fire marshal. And so we do that with all these different forms. We go through and send them on to people, where the approval system, somebody will make one application and it will send it to who it needs to go to. So we just at one time get one application, and then it automatically gets approved by people, and then we know.
Automatically reviewed.
Automatically, yes,
Yes,
after it's
exactly.
reviewed,
Yeah.
yes. And then we get the approval from all the departments. So we know that each department looked at it and they have approved it, rather than emailing back and forth
Yeah.
and getting lost. in
And is this
the
50
chain.
grand a one time?
It's a year.
It's annually.
It's
So
an
this
annual
is a
fee.
web-based, a
That's-
cloud-based
It's a
program.
cloud-based program.
And do you know other cities that use, and, well, I mean, would
Yeah,
we,
so
wouldn't we have to
Chattanooga-
do like an
Chattanooga has it.
RFQ? I mean, we would have to like,
25,000.
We
yeah,
could.
I think we'd have to.
We'd have to.
See who.
There's not many
responds.
people out there who do this type of
Yeah,
process.
well, sometimes RFQs have.
So
one
we'll find out.
two-
Yeah.
But Chattanooga uses this now, Savannah, Georgia, Lexington, Kentucky. Actually, there's
Raleigh does.
Raleigh, North
Yeah.
Carolina.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and so, and Richmond, Virginia uses it as well.
so
So those peer cities have had good luck with it.
Yes, and we honestly found out from our municipality group, we've been talking with different groups since COVID, and Raleigh and has been talking about how much it's helped them in the fact, because we're getting a lot more thrown on us
Yes.
every year.
How have events increased? I mean, or the size of events
So
or
we had
number of events?
428 permitted events last year. We currently have 287 permitted events already
and it's March.
for 2025.
And that does not include ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and all the park events that
Internal
Parks and Rec
stuff, yeah.
does. And it doesn't include the permitting for Visit Knoxville Film Office.
So if we're gonna have the alcohol possibly increase, we're going to have an increase.
Or more street closures
Or
on a
more
frequent
street closures.
basis like down at the
You
stadium.
mean street openings?
Street openings, yes. Exactly.
kidding.
A pedestrianization, how about that?
Right, that works, that's clear. Okay, so where did you get this amount from?
Then,
From them.
from them.
So Kendra and I did
Yeah.
sat down with them and did a demonstration to see how the product would work. And it's very comprehensive. It won't let the event organizer go past a certain point until they get approvals that are necessary. And once they get that checkbox, then they can go to the next step. So if they haven't gotten their beer permit application in and that's finalized, they can't get to the next step of completing the application. If they haven't gotten KPD's approval on their route for a race or whatever, or a street opening, it won't let them go past a certain point. So.
And if there's fees or anything, this actually, you put the fees into this. So
And
Like
that's
it
one
can
of-
accept fees
Yes.
electronically?
Yes, and one of the things we want to do right now, there is no application fee. So we want to charge an application fee for all the work that gets done by this office in order to help pay for the software package.
Well, that would be helpful to know, because I know we recently updated some fees for
Yes.
downtown events, but maybe, like basically, we didn't used to have very many events, or we had fewer events, and
Yeah.
we could afford to cover more of the cost, but then the cost kept going up, and so those fees have been in place, were they updated?
They have been updated, they've been in place for the last year.
But is that
And we need to
citywide, or is that just some events?
No, that's citywide unless there's a special request or the city is a partner on the event. So I'll give you an example. Today, we got an application in for Trees Knoxville's annual fundraiser, which is in April 5th.
April 5th, Caswell
Well,
Park.
April 5th happens to be when Chalk Walk is, and it's when the marathon 5K is, and the kids run, and they're preparing for the marathon the next day. So resources are going to be pretty slim, but they've asked for tables and chairs, tent, speaker, sound system, a generator, and
Maybe they should pick a different date.
several other things. Well, that's one of the conversations we were going to have with them, but it's just a month out. They've already advertised their event.
So one of the things that this team was really excited was they were, as you know, I've been digging in a bit on some of this, not their work, but as it relates to some of the other things.
Use
that
of
we're
public
working-
property.
Use of public property, right. And so one of the things that they were particularly excited about is the opportunity to re-educate our community about the fact that there is a process and that once you have this in place, it really helps to take out some of this variable last minute stuff that is just really puts a strain on our resources for us to be able to do. And so I think that it will really help streamline the process. It will help take some of the load off, not just this team, but all of these other teams that participate in it. Because we have like 7 different departments that participate every time there's
Transportation, engineering,
Yeah,
KPD,
absolutely.
Public service.
Public service.
So, they do a lot of hand-holding now with all of these event organizers. Even though there's an event guide that lays everything out,
Nobody reads it.
nobody really wants to
Nobody
follow
reads it.
that. They just want to ask them to take them through the process. Well, now, this automated system will help take that burden off of our staff. Most of that burden. There'll still be needs to help
yes.
out people in person.
And I mean, we're there, well, that's what we're there for, but this will just help.
Maybe for the 80% who can navigate it easily,
Correct,
they could
yes.
just do it, and then the
Yeah.
20% who need extra
The
help.
people who already do events on a regular basis are they're gonna love this.
Yeah.
But
make
if
it
somebody
easier.
wants to have a tent in a road again, it will red flag that and make sure that everybody approves that before that goes through.
Okay. Will it be able to say if they want to have it at, say, Caswell Park, like, oh, that's already booked?
Yes.
And all that.
It'll have, it's integrated with a calendar system so that it will tell them if there's already these events booked on that day. Are you sure you
Or
want to
could-
pick that day?
Also, like, could the system say like, oh, April 5th, we're maxed out.
Well, we could block that day.
But
Yeah.
staff can also do that as well, because there's gonna be times when it won't look like there's much going on, but there's a crap ton going on behind the scenes, and so they have the capacity to.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we could block that date out on our
If
side.
it's already, the calendar's already full. The other thing it does is it automatically generates emails to remind them of all the steps they need to do and what's the next step. And the biggest problem for our team and for a lot of different things we do is getting the insurance information. Just tracking that down takes a lot of time. So
Even
this-
for these repeat events?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So this also puts all the events on the calendar, so we can actually integrate the calendars with Knoxville Convention Center and ASM for KPD and everybody who really wants to know everything that's going on in the city.
So
Would we have the capacity to integrate things like the Morgan Wallen concert? Not that that's our event or anything, but we don't have to,
we could
but
put it
we
on the
do,
event
I mean, that had a
calendar.
huge
Yeah.
impact on city services. We had a lot of work to do.
Yep.
Yes. We had to
So,
do a lot of shit. We had
they
to
don't-
move an event.
Did we?
We had to, yeah, OLA had to reduce their time
Yeah.
because of that weekend.
Oh, Morgan.
So they went from a 2-day event to a 1-day event.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is seems like a much needed thing. It'd be, I'd like to understand better how we might recover some of the costs of it through, the permit fees or application fees or whatever that is, because that could help a lot. And maybe if we're doing things that benefit Visit Knoxville, maybe they can help contribute to the
Yeah,
cost.
and I talked with Kim about that, with the the film office permits, and Visit Knoxville is willing to share in the cost of this. This also benefits, Parks and Rec can use this as well for booking all of the parks and the greenways and all the events that they do. I mean, some of that comes through their office to help coordinate. But Parks and Rec can use this software as well.
Because they have a software already, right, for their shelter reservations and rec centers? They do, so I'm wondering if
They do.
we're already spending money on that, could that be?
That's a pretty limited product that they have. Basically,
But
just
that
creates
might
a
be able
calendar.
to be,
Maybe we
this
could
might
stop
be able to
using
replace
that.
that
We can
one.
If you're
connect
spending
it.
any money on that, that money could.
Yeah,
It could
absolutely.
possibly replace theirs.
But is this based on a total dollar amount, like one user, or can you have as many as you need? Or
So
like
they,
if you
so
have another
there's,
user, you get one, now you have two, it's double that amount, I mean, what?
so the $50,000 was the max, so there were 3 tiers. The $50,000 was the max tier, you can have as many users, you can have as many platforms. So we can actually build what we really need for many people to use it.
That's an annual cost.
That's an annual cost,
Yeah.
which is cheaper than adding another staff person.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for looking into this and finding
Thank you.
solutions, and
Yep.
and also, I mean, again, nice problem to have, that so
It
many,
is.
Oh, yeah.
there's so
It
many
is.
activities going on in our community. It's exciting,
It is.
but yeah, very busy.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, thanks so much, and
you.
I know we got a busy season coming up.
We do.
Oh
So,
my gosh, it's kicking into high gear right now.
Yeah,
Started on Saturday.
and there's a little bit of stuff with parking going on.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'll send all the questions to you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Save the best for last. We're very high energy and ready to go.
I bet you're ready to go. Here you are.
Let's see how he is now.
I've got Kristen, Robin, Alex with me. I'm sure you know most of them, so. Okay.
By the way, as you get your remarks out, I just want to say I think the updates to the large assembly room came off really well. Everyone seemed happy, I mean,
Yes.
as far as I could tell.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
so I thought big improvement, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I told Kristen, I'm sure. It was, I think we're happy with the
Yeah.
final conclusion on it, so. Well, I think on our budget, we have gone up. Most of our, I think the one thing I would always say is when you use PBA on a lot of the properties that we manage, our costs are split between city and county. The ones that you're seeing that are strictly the city would be T-Dot lots, which have, that will be a sizable amount to our budget. And then we've also got,
That's, that's under James White Parkway?
yes.
And Magnolia.
And Magnolia.
there's-
And 40, I-40 under.
But those are still gonna be free, but they're gonna
Yeah, but we're
be
gonna be.
Actually,
monitoring it
we're
for
gonna be doing
safety.
More security, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Those are the
That's-
ones we just did the budget amendment for
Correct.
the rest of this FY.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is for the
will cover
next,
step.
plus some of the
Yes.
normal building.
Mm-hmm. So there's 4 of those, and we will be monitoring those and sending security through. We've had some big increases in the number of security staff that we will have with city parks. And I think if you remember, the parks, and those were not part of our original budget, nor were the Coliseum garages. So
Is
those
that
kind
in
of-
this number? Parks and garages are in this number as well?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, those are additions, but they are because of the people we needed to add to be able to manage those
But
things.
the parks costs should be offset by what was in parks budget for security. They were contracting privately for security.
Okay.
Now we're using.
So that should be
PBA,
revenue
so that should be
neutral.
revenue neutral, and then the Coliseum garages, as you know, that's UT is.
Using
Covering the
those.
costs of the-
They're paying PBA.
They're paying.
So that should be offset and more.
Okay. What about, are you doing security in the day space?
No.
That's
Private.
under, okay.
And our board does not want us to do that.
Yeah,
They just think
well.
we're not equipped well to be the ones to handle that. So we looked at it, we've gone over there, but that's one I just don't feel we would be comfortable. But
Okay.
So we do have some, I mean, we've got an additional officer at the CAT Transit Center. That is truly because we have so many incidents there, and we average 14 times a week that we're calling KPD. And we have administered Narcan 19 times already this year. So we just have, it's a tough situation there, and the hours were extended. So in order to cover that, we've added a person there. We've added one person.
Do you think the people that, for example, the ones that needed Narcan, are they riders or are they just people passing, like walking by?
No, they're in the lobby typically, or riders. And so, that one's, we have our challenges there.
We do. A lot of times it's either right in the lobby or in the restrooms, man.
Okay.
And then we've added a new construction manager in Kristen's division, because we do feel like there'll be some requests if there's dollars allocated to do some of that work. So she's got a small staff today, and that budget is shared between the city and the county for work that's being done. So that's an addition we feel like we need.
Okay. For projects that may come to pass.
Yes. And
But we've got a lot on our plate right now.
We do have current, If you want to speak to that, I mean, it just.
I mean, we have, the project lists are reviewed every 2 to 3 weeks. We have an extensive list right now. There are several things waiting that from a capacity standpoint, we just can't immediately jump on as much as we would love to. But just with the projections and what we work with your teams, and that is between the city and the county. We need an additional staff person.
So I'm not sure what the breakdown is. It was city property management, T-dot lot, that would be under property management, not
Property
construction.
development number, the 108.
The 108.
There's management, there's development, and there's security.
So the development, is this whole thing the 50% amount, or is some of it is city only, so?
Some is city
but
only, your
the
T-dot
property
lots,
development is.
CAT.
That's 50%.
PD, her department would be 50-50 split.
Correct.
In what you get.
So that's one position for $216,000? No. Or
No.
The 108 is.
108 divided by 2.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
it's like I got to get into property development.
Yeah.
Telecom, what's that?
Telecom, okay, well, city, the county has taken a lot of their phones away, their landlines, and they're managing them differently on their own. I think Mark Parker's looked at that. He's not ready to make the transition that they made. But unfortunately, because that contract's in play and what we have in that, more is allocated to the city because the county stepped away from it.
We were looking at doing an assessment of what we needed and didn't need, and we just needed another year to do that.
Yeah, right. I know he's looking at it.
I think we want to look into the same.
I understand.
Getting rid of more,
I never use my
She's
landline.
running the desk phones, man.
I don't even know my landline number here. 215 something.
That's it, nobody.
4311.
That's
I always tell
have
people.
it.
Yeah, 4311, yeah.
And unfortunately, the only thing with theirs is now you have to dial 865 before you can do the 215. But life goes on, it's less expensive, so we get it.
All right, we need to examine that too.
And parking, we've got some additional parking expenses. There will be some fees involved. Jackson Lot has been transferred over as of March 1st to the IDB.
This is for the McClung warehouses.
Yeah.
We're still managing.
We're still managing, and the
We're
fees
still
are coming
managing
in.
it,
Yeah,
it's
but
just your revenue would go to IDB versus to the city.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sure, just through Ben Bentley, that was the agreement, so you let me know if that.
he's managing it, if it goes to him, and we're still covering the costs until he rebuilt this.
The surface lot at McClung? Okay.
Yeah.
190 spaces.
Very popular.
But the income is still coming to the city, correct?
No, she's
As of
saying it's
March.
going to KCDC, and what we're saying is that's great, we just, until.
They
we-
need to pass it
yeah,
on to
we'll
us,
pass it
and they
back
will.
to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
It's
agreement
the
was.
city IDB.
So who is following up to make sure that they're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got a contract out, it's an MOU with Ben on it, and we talked about it just at the meeting the other night, and he said he'll send me back his notes, so I think we're good. But
all those expenses for that are going to we're capturing it into that line item, so it's only the net. So technically they would be covering the expenses for
Mhm.
that lot, what it takes to manage it. So it's only the net that would be. So they are, that's
If
part of
there's
that
anything
budget.
above and beyond, or anything that they don't make, we've got to make it up, or it's gonna, we could get it back from them.
Yeah, he'll only get the net.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Jane, you were looking at hiring like maybe a COO or a number 2. How's that coming along?
I am putting in 6 months for a COO in the 2026 budget.
Okay.
My goal is to probably stay here until June of 2026.
Okay.
And
So you think are you going to post for that, the board? What's the schedule? We've been talking about it for 12 months. What's
Yeah.
the plan?
I only have 6 months allocated for a person to work with me, so that would be probably, mid-year and, close to January 2026. I'll advertise that position, then we'll hire and I'll work with someone to transition in. So.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah.
starting a little earlier, because, I mean,
Yeah, I just-
you just, like, it's sometimes, unless you're already recruiting people to apply, I mean, it's sometimes you have these great positions and, people don't know about it. Anyhow.
Right.
Don't wait till January.
No, and I've got somebody I'm adding into my budget that will work with me on the project management piece sooner than that individual, which is a big part of what we do with 143 buildings. A lot of what I do is in leasing and management and that type of thing, contracts, negotiations. So that I'll be working with someone to help me as we get the new person in. So it's the goal right now.
Okay. All right, busy times,
It
lots
will
of, we appreciate PBA's help with all the changes the city's, undergoing with the, public safety complex and new, parking management strategies and the need to do it. It's just,
Right.
we have a lot heavier utilization of city infrastructure, and so that means more safety needs, more security needs, more maintenance needs.
There's a lot.
And sometimes new spaces altogether, so.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Okay, and I mean, I know we talked about it at Capitol, but, I'm grateful we'll have the hotel motel tax has a little more revenue and flexibility, so hopefully that'll help us with all the deferred maintenance on the World's Fair Park type facilities that you guys maintain. I know that's not on today's thing, but certainly on our minds.
Good. Yeah, I had somebody ask me about the amphitheater roof yesterday, and so I was like.
The what? Oh, yeah.
The canopy in it. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, so anyway.
Yeah.
We appreciate the trust in PBA, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Any other questions?
No.
Good.
Okay. Well,
All right.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you for your time.
All right. All right. Now we got to balance the budget.